James Thompson adjusted his cufflinks as he stood by the window of his penthouse in Manhattan, overlooking the early morning rush of the city below. It was a sight he had seen countless times, yet today, his mind was elsewhere. Today was his wife Megan's birthday, a day that, despite his efforts, always stirred emotions he fought hard to keep buried. The weight of the past lingered like a shadow over every happy moment. His hands absent-mindedly brushed against his wrist, where he once wore a bracelet Sophia had made for him in kindergarten. His daughter, Sophia, had been missing for 15 years. The grief of losing her, compounded by the loss of his first wife Claire during childbirth, had never left him. Those wounds were permanent scars. Megan, his second wife, was a loving woman, patient and supportive, but even she could not fill the void that haunted him every day. Despite her efforts to bring light into his life, a distance had grown between them, fueled by James's relentless obsession with finding Sophia. He sighed, pushing the thoughts aside as he focused on the task at hand, making Megan's day special. Today wasn't supposed to be about the past, it was about moving forward. James had planned a shopping spree for Megan in New York's finest stores, wanting to distract her from the heaviness that had settled over their marriage in recent years. Megan had been understanding of his grief for a long time, but lately he could sense her patience waning. The once spontaneous laughter they shared was now replaced with strained conversations and silent dinners. "James, are you ready?" Megan's voice echoed from the hallway. She entered the room, dressed elegantly in a flowing blue dress, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. She smiled, but there was something weary behind her eyes. "You promised we'd leave early today." "Yes, I'm ready," James replied, mustering a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "We'll stop at that new boutique you like." As they made their way downstairs, James's mind wandered back to Sophia's room. He hadn't entered it in years, yet he knew every detail was exactly as it had been the day she disappeared. Her favorite books on the shelf, her bed neatly made with the pink covers she loved. He had kept it all intact, as if preserving her memory in that space would somehow bring her back. Hours later, they arrived at Fifth Avenue, bustling with shoppers. Megan's eyes scanned the windows of high-end stores, but James could tell her heart wasn't in it. She hadn't been herself lately, and he knew it was because of him. She had married a man who couldn't let go of his past, a man whose mind was always somewhere else, still searching for a daughter long gone. They entered a chic jewelry store, the kind of place where Megan usually brightened up. She walked toward a display of diamond necklaces, while James stayed back, his attention caught by a young woman behind the counter. The vendedora was arranging a display of luxury watches, but what drew James's eye wasn't the jewelry. It was the pendant hanging around her neck. His heart skipped a beat. The delicate silver necklace she wore looked exactly like the one he had given to Sophia on her 6th birthday. It was unique, with a tiny engraving on the back that said, "For my little star." He could never forget it. "Can I help you with something?" The woman's voice broke through his thoughts. She had soft brown eyes and a gentle demeanor, her hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She smiled politely, unaware of the storm brewing in James's mind. For a moment, James couldn't speak. His throat tightened, and his hands felt clammy. It was impossible, wasn't it? There were thousands of necklaces like that, but what if James began, his voice faltering. He felt Megan's presence next to him, her hand resting on his arm. He couldn't speak in front of her, not now. "Do you have anything in emerald?" Megan asked the vendedora, oblivious to the significance of the moment. "Yes, we have several pieces. Follow me, please," the woman replied, her eyes lingering on James for just a second longer than necessary. As Megan followed the woman to another part of the store, James stood frozen in place. He needed to know more. He couldn't let this moment slip away, but how would he explain his sudden interest to Megan? She already thought his obsession with Sophia was unhealthy, and this would only make things worse. He couldn't risk it. Not yet. When they left the store, Megan seemed satisfied with her new necklace, but James's mind was racing. The face of the vendedora and that pendant haunted him. He tried to push it out of his head, telling himself it was just a coincidence, but deep down, he knew better. That night, as Megan slept beside him, James sat in his office, staring at the photograph of Sophia on his desk. She had been 6 years old in the photo, smiling brightly at the camera, wearing the very pendant he had seen earlier today. His heart ached as he ran a finger over the glass, his mind swirling with doubt and fear. Unable to rest, he picked up his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in years. "Hale Investigations, how can I help you?" "David, it's James Thompson," he said, his voice low and measured. "I need your help. I saw something today, and I need you to find out everything you can about a woman working at the jewelry store on 5th Avenue. Her name is Lily. She might be someone I've been looking for." There was silence on the other end for a moment before David Hale responded, "I'll get on it right away. Send me all the details." James hung up the phone, his hands trembling slightly. He knew this was crazy, but his gut told him he couldn't let it go. Megan stirred beside him, but James couldn't bring himself to lay down. Not yet. In the morning, James tried to act normal, pretending that the events of yesterday hadn't shaken him to the core. Megan chatted over breakfast, seemingly unaware of the storm brewing inside him, but James could barely focus on the conversation. His mind kept drifting back to the pendant, the vendedora, and the unresolved mystery that had defined his life for the past 15 years. He was playing a dangerous game, but he had no choice. If there was even the slightest chance that Lily could be Sophia, he had to pursue it, no matter the cost. The next few days were a blur for James Thompson. He carried on with his daily routine, meetings with investors, a charity gala he attended with Megan, and the usual stream of business calls. But his mind was constantly preoccupied, spinning around one person, Lily. At night, as Megan slept peacefully beside him, James lay awake, waiting for a phone call that could change everything. He hadn't told Megan about the pendant or his suspicions. She already viewed his obsession with finding Sophia as a wound that would never heal, and he knew she would dismiss his current line of thinking as irrational, possibly even harmful. But he couldn't shake the feeling. Something about the vendedora, her demeanor, her eyes, and most importantly, that pendant, pulled him into a whirlwind of emotions that he thought he had learned to control. He had never been able to escape the shadow of his past, but this time it wasn't just a memory tugging at him. It was a real person standing in front of him, wearing the one thing that connected him to his daughter. As he sipped his morning coffee one day, his phone buzzed on the counter. David Hale, his private investigator, was finally calling with news. James felt his heart skip a beat as he picked up the phone, stepping out onto the balcony to avoid Megan overhearing anything. "David," James greeted tersely, unable to keep the anticipation from his voice. "James, I looked into Lily, just like you asked," David said, his tone cautious. "She's a bit of an enigma, I have to admit. No records before the age of 6. She was found abandoned in a park in a small town upstate. Authorities couldn't trace her origins, no family came forward, and she didn't seem to remember anything from before that time. She's been in the foster system ever since." James gripped the balcony railing, the cool metal grounding him as his mind raced. "No memory before 6, and she was found abandoned. What else do you know?" "Not much," David replied. "She moved to the city about 2 years ago, started working at the jewelry store. Clean record, nothing out of the ordinary, but the lack of background before 6 is strange. Matches your timeline for when Sophia disappeared, doesn't it?" James's pulse quickened. Sophia would have been around 6 when she disappeared. The age, the pendant, the fact that Lily had no memory before then, it was all too much to be a coincidence. "Do you think it's possible?" James asked, his voice low, barely audible over the noise of the city below. "Could she be my daughter?" David hesitated before answering. "It's possible, James, But without more information, it's too early to say for sure. If she's really Sophia, she may not even know it herself. James exhaled slowly, his mind swirling with the implications. If Lily was Sophia, she had been out there, lost and alone for all these years, while he had been searching tirelessly. The idea that she might not even know who she truly was broke his heart. "Keep digging," James instructed. "I need to know everything about her. Find out if there's any connection to Megan." "Got it. I'll let you know if I find anything," David replied before hanging up. James stood there for a moment, the phone still in his hand, as the weight of what he had just learned settled in. If Lily was truly Sophia, what had happened to her? How had she ended up in a park, abandoned, without a single memory of her life before? That evening, James arrived home later than usual. Megan was sitting on the couch, flipping through a magazine, a glass of wine on the table in front of her. She looked up as he entered, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You've been distant lately," Megan remarked, her voice soft but edged with concern. "Is everything okay?" James hesitated, unsure of how much he should tell her. Megan had always been supportive, but there was a fragility to their relationship that he couldn't ignore. It wasn't that he didn't trust her, at least that's what he told himself. But after so many years of grief and searching, he had learned to rely only on himself when it came to Sophia. "Just work," James replied, brushing off her question. He didn't want to lie, but telling her the truth seemed impossible. "Not yet. It's been stressful." Megan's gaze lingered on him for a moment, clearly unconvinced, but she didn't press the issue. Instead, she gestured for him to sit beside her, and for the first time in days, James tried to relax. He needed to, at least for tonight. They had been drifting apart, and Megan had been more patient with him than anyone else could ever be. He owed her that much. "Let's have dinner out tomorrow," Megan suggested, placing her hand on his arm. "We haven't had a real date in weeks." James nodded, offering her a small smile. "Sure. Tomorrow sounds good," but even as he agreed, his thoughts were already elsewhere, on Lily, on the pendant, on the investigation. His obsession was pulling him deeper into a web of secrets, and he feared that once he started unraveling it, there would be no going back. The next day, James found himself drawn back to the jewelry store. He told Megan he had a business meeting in the city, but the truth was, he couldn't stay away. He needed to see Lily again, to talk to her, to understand if his suspicions were true. When he walked into the store, his heart pounded in his chest. Lily was there, behind the counter, helping a customer with a bracelet. James stood off to the side, pretending to browse the watches, his mind racing with questions. When she finally finished with the customer, James approached her. "Lily, right," he said, his voice calm, though his heart was anything but. She looked up at him, smiling politely. "Yes. Can I help you with something today?" James swallowed hard. I couldn't help but notice the pendant you're wearing. It looks exactly like one I gave to my daughter years ago." Lily instinctively touched the pendant, her fingers brushing over the silver chain. "Oh, this, I've had it as long as I can remember. It was with me when I was found as a child." James's breath caught in his throat. It was the confirmation he had been waiting for. "What do you mean, when you were found?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Lily hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "I don't really know much about my past. I was found in a park when I was 6, and I don't remember anything from before that. This necklace was the only thing I had with me." James felt his legs weaken beneath him. The world seemed to tilt, and for a moment, he wasn't sure if he could stand any longer. His mind raced with the possibilities, each one more painful and hopeful than the last. I see," James stammered. "That must have been difficult." Lily shrugged, her demeanor growing more reserved. "I've learned to live with it. The past is the past, right?" But for James, the past was never just the past. It was his entire life. And now, standing before him, was the living embodiment of that past. A young woman who might very well be his daughter, though she had no idea. Before he could say anything more, A voice interrupted them. "James!" James turned to see Megan standing at the entrance to the store, her expression one of confusion and suspicion. "Who's this?" she asked, her eyes narrowing as she glanced from James to Lily. For a moment, James felt trapped, the walls of his carefully constructed world closing in around him. He had to keep his secrets for just a little longer. But with Megan standing there, the weight of his deception threatened to crush him. The tension in the jewelry store thickened as Megan stood at the entrance, her eyes darting between James and Lily. There was an unmistakable edge to her voice as she asked, "Who's this?" For a moment, James felt cornered, his pulse racing. His mind scrambled for an excuse, something plausible to explain why he was here, why he was talking to Lily again. He knew he couldn't reveal the truth, not now, not when he was so close to uncovering the reality behind the pendant, behind Sophia's disappearance. "This is Lily," James replied, forcing a casual tone. "I was just asking her about some jewelry for you." Lily, sensing the awkwardness of the situation, smiled politely but took a small step back. Her instincts were sharp, and she could feel the undercurrent of tension radiating from Megan. "Oh, that's sweet of you," Megan said, though her words were tight. She gave Lily a brief, almost dismissive glance before turning her focus back to James. "But you didn't mention you were planning to stop by here today." James swallowed hard, feeling the walls closing in. Megan had always been perceptive, and her patience with his secrecy had been wearing thin lately. He couldn't afford to slip up now, not when he was so close to the truth. "It was a last-minute idea," James said quickly. "I thought I'd surprise you. They have a beautiful collection here." Megan's eyes lingered on him for a moment longer, searching his face for any signs of deception. James held her gaze, trying to appear as calm and composed as possible, though inside his mind was spinning with the weight of what he wasn't telling her. "Well, I'll leave you two to it," Lily interjected, sensing the tension between the couple. She smiled at both of them, her demeanor professional but distant. "If you need anything else, just let me know." As Lily turned and walked away, Megan crossed her arms and tilted her head slightly, her eyes narrowing at James. "You're being weird," she said, her tone a mixture of curiosity and frustration. "What's really going on, James?" James hesitated, knowing he was walking a thin line. He couldn't lie outright, but telling Megan the truth would raise questions he wasn't ready to answer. His obsession with finding Sophia had already strained their relationship to the breaking point. This could shatter it completely. "It's nothing," James finally said, offering a strained smile. "I've just had a lot on my mind." Megan stared at him for a long moment, and James could feel the weight of her doubts pressing down on him. He knew Megan was growing tired of his evasiveness. Their marriage had been rocky for months, ever since he'd started intensifying his search for Sophia again. But this was different. This time, he felt closer than ever. "Let's just go," Megan said quietly, her voice tinged with disappointment. "We'll talk later." That night, as they sat in their sprawling penthouse overlooking the lights of Manhattan, the silence between them was deafening. Megan sat across from James at the dinner table, picking at her food, while James's mind was miles away, thinking of the necklace, of Lily, of what David had discovered so far. Finally, Megan broke the silence. "You've been acting strange ever since we went shopping the other day," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You're distracted, distant, more than usual. And today, with that girl at the jewelry store, there's something you're not telling me." James set his fork down, the metal clattering softly against the plate. He knew this moment would come. Megan had always been good at reading him, and it wasn't in her nature to let things slide, but he wasn't ready to share what he knew. "Not yet. I've been thinking about Sophia," James admitted, his voice low. "About how long it's been since she disappeared." Megan's expression softened, but there was still a flicker of frustration in her eyes. "James, we've talked about this. You need to stop torturing yourself over it. We did everything we could to find her. It's been 15 years. At some point, you have to let it go." James shook his head, the ache in his chest deepening. I can't stop thinking about her." I feel like I'm close to something, like there's more I haven't uncovered yet. Megan sighed, setting her own fork down. And what about us? Our marriage? You've been so consumed by your search for Sophia that you've been neglecting everything else, including me. James looked up at her, the guilt gnawing at him. She wasn't wrong. In his obsession to find Sophia, he had pushed Megan away. But what could he say? That he had seen a woman who might be his missing daughter? That he was digging into things he hadn't shared with her yet? I know I haven't been present lately, James said softly, but this is something I have to see through. Megan stared at him for a long moment, her frustration giving way to hurt. I understand that Sophia was your daughter and that losing her destroyed you, but I'm here, James. I'm your wife. Don't you see how this obsession is tearing us apart? James clenched his fists under the table, the emotions swirling inside him. He couldn't deny what Megan was saying. His obsession with finding Sophia had become all-consuming, a constant presence that overshadowed every aspect of his life. But now, with the possibility of Sophia being alive, right here, so close, how could he let it go? I'm sorry, Megan, he said finally, his voice strained. I don't want to hurt you, but I can't walk away from this. Not yet. Megan's eyes filled with a mix of sadness and resignation. She stood from the table, pushing her chair back. I don't know how much more of this I can take, James, she said quietly. I love you, but I can't keep competing with a ghost. With that, she walked away, leaving James alone at the table, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. He knew he was losing her, but he couldn't stop now. He couldn't let go of the past, not when he was so close to uncovering the truth. The next day, James received a call from David Hale. I found something, David said. His voice clipped. It's about Megan. James's heart lurched. Megan? What do you mean? I looked into her past, like you asked, David continued. And there's something you need to know. 15 years ago, just before Sophia disappeared, Megan made several large, untraceable cash withdrawals from her personal accounts. Around the same time, she was seen meeting with a lawyer, someone who's known for handling delicate, off-the-books matters. James gripped the phone tightly, his mind reeling. A lawyer? Who? His name is David Hale, David said grimly, and he has a reputation for getting his clients out of tricky situations. If Megan was involved in anything back then, he's the man who would have handled it. James's blood ran cold. It was as if the ground beneath him was shifting, cracking, opening up to reveal a truth he hadn't wanted to consider. Could Megan have been involved in Sophia's disappearance? The thought was too horrifying to process, but the evidence was starting to point in that direction. I need more, James said, his voice low and steady, though inside his world was spinning out of control. I need you to find out everything you can about Megan and this lawyer. I want to know what they were up to back then. I'm on it, David replied. When James hung up the phone, he stared out the window of his office, the city skyline blurred by the chaos in his mind. The pieces were falling into place, but the picture they were forming was one he didn't want to see. He had been so focused on finding Sophia that he hadn't noticed the truth that had been hiding right under his nose all along. Megan, the woman he had trusted, the woman he had built a life with, might have been responsible for taking Sophia away from him. James Thompson sat in his office, the weight of his world crumbling around him. The revelation from David Hale was still ringing in his ears. Megan, his wife, his supposed rock, could have played a role in Sophia's disappearance. It was a thought so dark, so unthinkable, that James struggled to even process it. He had spent years grieving, searching and mourning his daughter, all while building a new life with Megan. And now, to consider that the woman he had trusted could be at the heart of his pain felt like a cruel twist of fate. He ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing through the past 15 years. What signs had he missed? Megan had been there for him in the aftermath of Sophia's disappearance, helping him through the darkest days. Even though he had been emotionally distant, she had been patient, supportive, and understanding. At least, that's what he had always believed. But now, Now, every moment they had shared was under a microscope. Every gesture, every comforting word, every look of concern, it all seemed suspect. James stood from his desk and paced the length of his office, his chest tightening with anxiety. The thought of confronting Megan felt impossible. How could he accuse her of something so heinous without concrete proof? And yet, how could he continue to live with her without knowing the truth? His phone buzzed on the desk, jolting him from his thoughts. It was a text from David. "Need to meet. There's more you need to hear tonight." James stared at the message for a moment, then quickly typed back, "Yes, my office. After 7. He knew there was no turning back now. The pieces were starting to come together, and as much as he wanted to ignore the horrible possibility, the truth was barreling toward him, unstoppable. That evening, James sat in his office, staring out over the darkened city as the minutes ticked by. Megan had called earlier, asking if he'd be home for dinner. He'd made an excuse about a late meeting, and the disappointment in her voice had been palpable. But how could he sit across from her at the dinner table, knowing what he did now? How could he pretend everything was normal when his world was on the verge of collapse? A knock at the door interrupted his spiraling thoughts. David entered, his expression serious as he closed the door behind him. He took a seat across from James, laying a thin manila folder on the desk between them. "I've dug deeper," David said, cutting straight to the point, "and what I found isn't good. James, Megan's ties to this lawyer, David Hale, go back further than I initially thought. They've been in contact on and off for years, well before Sophia's disappearance." James's heart sank, a sickening feeling settling in his gut. "What kind of contact?" "Mostly financial," David explained. "Large sums of money were moved discreetly, some to offshore accounts. But here's the kicker. Around the time Sophia disappeared, Megan transferred a significant amount of money into an account under Hale's name." James stared at him, his mouth dry. "Are you telling me she paid him off?" David nodded grimly. "It looks that way. I can't say for certain what the money was for, but given the timing, it's not looking good, James." James leaned back in his chair, trying to steady his breathing. His mind raced with images of Sophia, memories of her laughing, playing, the joy she had brought into his life before everything fell apart. And now, to think that Megan had been involved in her disappearance. It was too much to bear. "Do you think she—" James started, his voice faltering. "Do you think she's the reason Sophia's gone?" David hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the question. "I don't know, James, but the evidence we've found points to her being involved, at least financially. The rest, we'd need more to confirm." James closed his eyes, trying to push back the rage and betrayal boiling up inside him. How could Megan have done this? Why? What motive could she possibly have had? They had been happy, or at least that's what he had thought. Was it jealousy? Fear of losing him? But to go this far, to tear his daughter from his life? "I don't know what to do," James admitted, his voice hoarse. "If this is true, if she's the reason I lost Sophia—" David leaned forward, his tone firm but sympathetic. "You can't confront her without more proof. Right now, all we have is circumstantial evidence. If you go to her with this, she could deny everything and cover her tracks." James nodded, though the idea of waiting, of pretending everything was fine, felt unbearable. He had been living in the dark for 15 years. How much longer could he endure it? "We'll keep digging," David continued, "but I think you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that this could get ugly." James stared at the folder on his desk, his thoughts spinning. David was right. This was far from over, and he needed to play his cards carefully. He couldn't let Megan know that he was onto her. Not until he had all the facts. When James finally returned home that night, the penthouse was quiet. Megan was already in bed, a book resting on the nightstand next to her. She smiled when she saw him, though the weariness in her eyes was hard to miss. "You're late," she said softly. "Long day," James replied, loosening his tie as he sat on the edge of the bed. "Sorry." Megan reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I feel like we've been drifting apart lately," she said, her voice tinged with sadness. "I miss you, James. I miss us." James's heart twisted at her words, the guilt eating away at him. He wanted to reach out to her, to pull her into his arms and promise that everything would be okay. But how could he, knowing what he did now? "I'm sorry," he said quietly, turning to face her. "I've just been overwhelmed with work, but I'll try to be more present. I promise." Megan smiled faintly, but the distance between them remained. As she lay back down and turned off the bedside lamp, James stared at her, his mind swirling with questions he couldn't ask. Was this all an act? Had Megan been hiding the truth from him all these years, playing the role of the supportive wife while secretly knowing where Sophia was? Or worse, had she orchestrated the whole thing out of jealousy, fear, or some other motive he couldn't even begin to fathom? As the room fell into darkness, James lay awake, listening to Megan's steady breathing beside him. The weight of his suspicions pressed down on him, suffocating him. He needed answers, real answers, and he would get them, no matter the cost. Over the next few days, James played his role perfectly. He went through the motions of their life together, keeping up appearances for Megan's sake. But inside, he was a man on the brink, consumed by the need for the truth. Every interaction with Megan felt like a lie. Every smile she gave him twisted his gut with suspicion. Meanwhile, David continued his investigation, piecing together more of Megan's secret dealings. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became that Megan had been hiding something big. But what exactly? Was it really connected to Sophia? Or was there another layer to this story that they hadn't yet uncovered? One evening, as James sat in his office going over the latest findings from David, he received a text from an unknown number. The message was short, but it sent a chill down his spine. "You're digging into things you shouldn't. Stop now, or you'll regret it." James stared at the message, his heart pounding. Was this from Megan, from the lawyer, or someone else entirely? Whoever it was, they knew what he was up to, and they didn't want him to continue, but it was too late. James was too far in now. He wasn't stopping, not until he found the truth. James Thompson sat in his office, his eyes glued to the threatening message on his phone. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of it. "You're digging into things you shouldn't. Stop now, or you'll regret it." The Megan. A mixture of anger and fear surged through him. The message felt like a taunt, a warning to stay away from the truth he was so desperately trying to uncover. But if they thought he would stop now, they were wrong. Whoever had sent the message had only fueled his determination. James clenched his phone tightly, his thoughts racing to David Hale, the lawyer Megan had allegedly paid off. He had been suspicious of David's involvement from the start, but this message seemed to confirm it. Megan was hiding something so dark that someone was willing to threaten him to keep it buried. But what could be so damning? With a deep breath, he typed a quick message to David, his trusted investigator. "Got a threatening message. I need you to dig into David Hale's current whereabouts and connections. Something's off, and I need answers fast." He hit send and leaned back in his chair, staring blankly at the city lights flickering outside his window. His entire world had become a puzzle, and each new piece he found only raised more questions. He didn't know whom to trust anymore, least of all Megan. Later that evening, when James returned home, the house was dark except for a dim light coming from the living room. Megan sat curled up on the couch, a glass of wine in her hand. She looked up as he entered, her face shadowed by the soft glow of the lamp. There was a tiredness in her eyes that made her seem fragile, almost vulnerable. "You're late again," she said quietly, her voice carrying a hint of sadness. James felt a pang of guilt, but it was quickly overshadowed by the storm brewing inside him. He couldn't confront her, not yet. He had to keep playing the part of the loving husband, even though his trust in her was unraveling with each passing day. "Yeah, sorry," he mumbled, loosening his tie as he walked over to the couch. "Work's been a lot." Megan studied him for a moment, as if trying to read his thoughts. "You've been distant, James. More than usual. Is there something you're not telling me?" James hesitated, the weight of her question hanging in the air. He wanted to ask her. He wanted to confront her with everything he had learned, to demand answers. But the warning message echoed in his mind. Whoever was behind it was watching him, and he couldn't risk tipping his hand too soon. Instead, he forced a smile and shook his head. "I'm just tired, Meg, that's all." Megan looked unconvinced, but she didn't press further. She set her glass down on the coffee table and stood up, walking over to him. She placed her hands on his chest, her touch gentle but searching. "I miss you," she whispered, her eyes locking with his. "We're supposed to be a team, remember?" James swallowed hard, guilt gnawing at him. In that moment, she seemed so genuine, so sincere, but could it all be an act? Could the woman he had loved for years truly be capable of something so terrible? "I miss you too," he said softly, though the words felt hollow. He leaned down and kissed her forehead, trying to push away the doubts that clouded his mind. But even as he held her close, he knew that the distance between them was growing wider with each secret he kept. The next day, David called him with more information. "I've been looking into David Hale's movements," David said, his tone serious. "He's a hard man to track, but I found something interesting. He's recently been in contact with Megan's former financial advisor, someone who helped her manage those offshore accounts." James's stomach twisted. "What does that mean?" "It means," David continued, "that there's a financial trail linking Hale and Megan, even after Sophia disappeared. Whatever happened back then, they've stayed in touch. My guess is that Megan's been using Hale to keep things quiet, possibly paying him off to ensure he doesn't talk." James felt the walls closing in around him. Megan had always been careful with her finances, but he had never questioned it. Now, it seemed that her meticulous handling of money had been a cover for something far more sinister. "Have you found anything concrete?" James asked, his voice tight with frustration. "Not yet, but I'm getting closer. I just need more time." Time. It was something James felt he was running out of. The weight of the truth was bearing down on him, but without solid proof, he was stuck in limbo. Every day that passed without answers was another day living under the same roof as a woman who could have destroyed his life. "Keep digging," James said before hanging up. That evening, James couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. As he walked through the crowded streets of Manhattan, heading toward a meeting with an old business partner, he kept glancing over his shoulder, convinced that someone was following him. Every shadow seemed darker, every passerby seemed suspicious. The paranoia was starting to eat away at him, fueled by the threatening message he had received. When he arrived at the restaurant, he spotted Paul Simmons, a longtime associate, sitting at a corner table. Paul was a reliable man, someone James had trusted for years in business, but today, James wasn't in the mood for small talk. "Paul, good to see you," James greeted him as he sat down. "Sorry for being late. Things have been complicated." Paul raised an eyebrow, his expression curious. "Complicated? You're one of the most composed guys I know, James. What's going on?" James leaned in, lowering his voice. "I'm in the middle of something big, Paul, and I need to know if I can trust you." Paul's expression shifted, becoming more serious. "Of course, James, you've always had my back. What's going on?" James hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal, but he had to trust someone, and Paul had always been straight with him. "It's Megan," he said quietly. "I think she's hiding something related to my daughter's disappearance." Paul's eyes widened in surprise. "Megan? Are you sure?" "I don't have all the answers yet," James admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But the evidence is piling up. I just don't know who to turn to anymore." Paul studied him for a moment, then leaned in closer. "Listen, James, if you need help, I'm here. I know some people who can get information, real information, people who aren't afraid to dig deep." James nodded, grateful for the offer. "I might need that soon." They finished their meal in relative silence, but James's mind was racing the entire time. He knew that things were spiraling out of control, and fast. And now, with Paul's help, he had another option on the table. He just wasn't sure how far he was willing to go. Back at home, Megan was in the bedroom when James arrived. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, a small, concerned frown creasing her brow. "James," she said quietly, "can we talk?" James's heart skipped a beat. "Of course. What's wrong?" Megan sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I don't know what's going on with you lately, but it feels like you're keeping something from me. You've been distant, distracted. I can feel it." James sat down beside her, his mind racing. She was right. He had been keeping things from her. But how could he tell her the truth? How could he confront her with everything he had learned without proof? "I'm just stressed, Megan," he said, his voice strained. "Work has been crazy, and I'm still dealing with Sophia. It's been weighing on me more than usual." Megan's expression softened, and she reached out to take his hand. "I understand that you miss her, James. I do too. But you have to stop letting it consume you. We need to move forward." James nodded, though inside he was drowning in doubt. Moving forward seemed impossible when every step felt like a betrayal of his daughter's memory. And now, with everything he had uncovered about Megan, moving forward seemed like the last thing he could do. As they sat in silence, Megan leaned her head on his shoulder and James wrapped his arm around her, trying to ignore the voice in his head telling him that everything was about to come crashing down. The days blurred together as James Thompson walked a tightrope between his crumbling marriage and the dark truth he was slowly uncovering. Each night, as he lay in bed next to Megan, he felt the suffocating weight of the secrets pressing down on him. Megan's presence, once comforting, had become unbearable. He couldn't shake the thought that the woman lying beside him might have orchestrated the greatest betrayal of his life, the disappearance of his daughter, Sophia. The constant pretense was wearing him down. Every smile he forced, every casual conversation felt like a betrayal to the truth he was seeking. He had spent years searching for Sophia, and now, with the pieces starting to fall into place, the realization that Megan could be involved gnawed at his very soul. A few days later, David Hale, the private investigator, called with a crucial update. "I found something more concrete," David said, his voice urgent over the phone. "You were right to be suspicious. Megan has been in contact with David Hale, the lawyer, more recently than we thought. There's a paper trail, emails, phone records. They've been communicating about a sealed legal agreement. I can't get all the details without breaching some serious legal walls, but it's clear that Megan paid him off to bury something." James's heart raced as he listened, his fingers tightening around the phone. "Do you think it's related to Sophia?" David paused before answering. "There's no direct evidence yet, but the timing, the secrecy, and the amount of money involved, it points to something big, James. This isn't just about hiding assets or covering up a business deal. Whatever this is, Megan wanted it buried deep." James felt a surge of anger and despair rise in his chest. He had always known Megan was secretive about certain aspects of her life, but this was something else. If she was involved in Sophia's disappearance, there would be no going back. His marriage, the life he had rebuilt after losing Claire and Sophia, everything would be over. "What do I do?" James asked, his voice cracking slightly, betraying the desperation he felt. "You need more proof," David said firmly. "Right now, everything we have is circumstantial. If you confront her without solid evidence, she could deny everything, or worse, destroy whatever proof is left. You have to play it smart, James." James nodded. Though he knew David couldn't see him, he needed to keep his emotions in check, no matter how much it hurt to continue living this lie. "Keep digging," he said quietly, before hanging up. That night, James returned home to find Megan sitting at the dining table, a candlelit dinner laid out before her. She looked up at him with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, and for a moment, James wondered if she knew, if she could sense the walls closing in around her. "I thought we could have a nice, quiet dinner tonight," Megan said, her voice warm, but James could hear the tension behind it. "Just the two of us. We haven't had much time together lately." James swallowed hard, feeling the knot of guilt and suspicion twisting tighter in his chest. He sat down across from her, forcing a smile as he picked up his fork. "This looks great." "Thanks, Meg." She watched him for a moment, her gaze lingering on him as if trying to decipher his thoughts. "Is everything okay, James? You've been so distant lately." James took a deep breath, the weight of her question pressing down on him. How could he tell her the truth? How could he look her in the eye and accuse her of the unthinkable? "I've just been stressed," he said quietly, keeping his tone steady. "Work has been overwhelming, and I've been thinking about Sophia a lot lately." Megan's face softened, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, something James couldn't quite read. Was it guilt, fear, or was it just his imagination playing tricks on him? "I know how much you miss her," Megan said softly, reaching across the table to take his hand. "But you can't keep torturing yourself, James. It's been 15 years. We've done everything we could." James clenched his jaw, forcing himself to stay calm. "I don't think I'll ever stop looking for her," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Megan squeezed his hand gently, her eyes locking with his. "I know, but you have to move forward. We have to move forward." Her words echoed in his mind long after they finished dinner and retreated to the bedroom. As Megan lay beside him, drifting off to sleep, James stared at the ceiling, his mind spinning with thoughts of betrayal, lies, and the missing pieces of Sophia's disappearance. He knew he couldn't move forward, not until he found the truth, and not until he uncovered exactly what Megan had done. The next day, James met with Paul Simmons, the trusted friend he had confided in earlier. They sat in a quiet corner of a cafe, away from prying eyes and ears. James needed help, and Paul was one of the few people he could turn to. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up," James said, his voice low and tense. "Living with her, pretending everything's fine, it's eating me alive." Paul leaned back in his chair, studying James carefully. "You need to keep your cool, James. If you tip your hand too soon, you could lose everything. You need solid proof before you do anything." James nodded, though the frustration gnawed at him. "David's still digging, but it's taking time. And I got a message, a warning, telling me to stop looking. I think someone's watching me." Paul frowned, leaning forward. "A warning? Who would send something like that?" James shook his head. "I don't know. But it has to be connected to Megan and that lawyer. Someone doesn't want me to find out the truth." Paul was silent for a moment, his expression darkening. "James, you know I've always got your back. If you need someone to keep an eye on things, to watch your back, I can help. I've got people who can track down whoever sent that message." James looked at Paul, feeling a surge of gratitude. He had been so caught up in the investigation that he hadn't considered how dangerous things could get. If Megan truly was involved in something nefarious, there was no telling what lengths she, or whoever was working with her, would go to in order to protect their secrets. "Thanks, Paul," James said, his voice sincere. "I might need that soon." Paul nodded, his expression serious. "Just say the word." Later that evening, James returned home to find Megan sitting in the living room, a glass of wine in her hand. She looked up at him as he entered, her expression unreadable. "James, we need to talk," she said, her voice calm but firm. James felt his stomach drop. He had been waiting for this moment, the moment when everything would come to a head. He had been so careful, so guarded, but now it seemed that Megan was ready to confront him. He walked over to the couch, sitting down beside her, his heart pounding in his chest. "What is it?" Megan took a deep breath, her eyes searching his face. "I know something's been going on with you. You've been distant, secretive. I can feel it, and I don't know what to think anymore." James felt his pulse quicken, his mind racing with 1,000 different responses. Should he confront her now? Should he come clean about what he had uncovered? Or should he keep playing the part, waiting until he had irrefutable proof? "I'm not hiding anything from you," he lied, forcing his voice to remain steady. "I've just been overwhelmed with work and everything." Megan's eyes narrowed slightly, as if she didn't quite believe him. "James, if there's something going on, you can tell me. I need to know that we're in this together." James stared at her, the weight of her words pressing down on him. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that she was the woman he had fallen in love with, the woman who had stood by him during the hardest years of his life. But the evidence was piling up, and the truth was becoming impossible to ignore. "We are in this together," he said quietly, though the lie tasted bitter on his tongue. Megan gave him a long, searching look before finally nodding. "Okay," she said softly, though her tone held a trace of doubt. "I just hope you're being honest with me." James nodded, but inside he knew that the moment of reckoning was coming, and when it did, their lives would never be the same. The air between James and Megan had grown thicker, heavier with each passing day. Every conversation, every glance exchanged between them felt loaded, as though the truth was bubbling just beneath the surface, waiting to erupt. Despite James's attempts to act normally, he could sense that Megan knew something was wrong. She wasn't pressing him yet, but the way her eyes followed him through the house, how her smiles no longer reached her eyes, those were signs he couldn't ignore. James had barely slept in days. The weight of everything he had uncovered kept him awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together the puzzle of his wife and his daughter's disappearance. Sophia's face haunted his dreams, always just out of reach, while Megan lay beside him, an ever-present reminder of the lies that now defined their relationship. The next morning, James left the house early. He needed space, both from Megan and from the growing weight of his suspicions. He went for a walk in Central Park, hoping the fresh air might clear his head. The city was waking up around him, joggers passing by, parents walking their children to school, the usual hum of life continuing as if nothing was wrong. But for James, everything was wrong. The world felt surreal, like a stage set for a tragedy he couldn't stop. As he wandered through the park, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from David Hale, his investigator. "I've got something. Meet me in 1 hour at the usual place." James's heart raced as he read the text. He had been waiting for this, waiting for the final piece of the puzzle to fall into place. Whatever David had uncovered could be the key to understanding what had happened to Sophia. It could be the proof he needed to confront Megan once and for all. An hour later, James sat in a quiet corner of a cafe, nursing a black coffee as he waited for David. The tension coiled in his chest, tightening with each passing minute. When David finally walked in, his expression was grim, his jaw set in a way that told James this was going to be hard to hear. David sat down across from him, sliding a folder across the table. "I found something," he said, his voice low and serious, "and you're not going to like it." James's hands trembled slightly as he opened the folder. Inside were copies of emails, bank records, and surveillance photos. Megan's face stared back at him from one of the photos, standing outside a discreet law office, talking to David Hale, the lawyer. The same lawyer who had been handling her financial affairs during the time of Sophia's disappearance. "The lawyer," David said, pointing to the photos. "Megan's been in contact with him for years, not just back when Sophia disappeared, but as recently as 2 weeks ago. And those emails, they're discussing something big, something about a legal settlement tied to a custody dispute." James's stomach churned as he scanned the documents. His hands clenched the edges of the paper, his mind reeling. "A custody dispute? Between who?" David shook his head. "I couldn't get the full details. Those documents are sealed. But this isn't just about hiding money, James. Megan's been keeping something from you. And I think it's about Sophia." James's heart pounded in his chest as the implications hit him. Could it be possible that Sophia was alive? That Megan had orchestrated some kind of elaborate cover-up, hiding their daughter from him all these years? But why? What possible reason could she have had? "This can't be real," James whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Megan wouldn't, she couldn't have." David's expression softened slightly, but his tone remained firm. "I know this is hard to accept, but you need to face the facts, James. Megan's involved in something serious, and it's tied to Sophia. Whether she was trying to protect her or hide her, I don't know. But I do know that Megan's been lying to you. For a long time. James sat back in his chair, his mind spinning. The pieces were starting to come together, but the picture they were forming was one he couldn't bear to look at. His wife, the woman he had trusted, the woman who had been by his side through the darkest years of his life, had betrayed him in the worst possible way. "What do I do?" James asked, his voice barely above a whisper. David sighed. "You need more proof before you confront her. If you go to her with this now, she could deny everything. Or worse, she could destroy any remaining evidence." James nodded, though the thought of waiting, of continuing to live this lie, made him feel sick. But David was right. He needed solid, undeniable proof before he could confront Megan. "I'll keep digging," David said, standing up and placing a reassuring hand on James's shoulder. "But be careful, James. Whoever sent that warning message, they're watching you. And if Megan's involved, they'll do whatever it takes to keep this secret buried." James watched as David left the cafe, his mind a swirling storm of emotions. He felt trapped, suffocated by the lies and the secrets that had consumed his life. And yet, he couldn't stop now. He was too close to the truth. That evening, when James returned home, Megan was waiting for him. She sat in the living room, a glass of wine in hand, the flickering light of the fireplace casting shadows across her face. "You're home late," she said, her voice cool but laced with concern. James forced a smile, trying to act as though everything was normal. "Had a meeting that ran long." Megan's eyes lingered on him for a moment, as though she could sense the tension beneath his calm exterior. But she didn't press further. Instead, she stood up, walking over to him and placing her hand on his chest. "James," she said softly, her voice almost pleading, "we've been drifting apart lately. I feel like you're slipping away from me." James swallowed hard, guilt and anger warring within him. He wanted to pull her into his arms, to tell her everything, to demand the truth, but he couldn't. "Not yet. I've just been stressed," he said quietly, his voice tight. "Work's been overwhelming." Megan searched his eyes, her own filled with a mix of sadness and frustration. "I miss you," she whispered. "I miss us." James felt the knot in his chest tighten. How much of this was real? How much of it was an act? He had spent years believing that Megan was the one person he could rely on, the one person who had been there for him when everything else fell apart. But now, he didn't know what to believe. "I miss you too," he said softly, though the words felt hollow. Megan leaned into him, resting her head against his chest. James wrapped his arms around her, holding her close even as his mind screamed with doubt and suspicion. Was she the woman he had loved all these years, or was she a master manipulator, hiding something far darker than he had ever imagined? Later that night, as Megan slept beside him, James lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. He reached for it, half expecting another message from David, but when he unlocked the screen, his heart stopped. It was another anonymous text. "Stop digging. You won't like what you find." James's hands trembled as he stared at the message, the warning sinking into his bones. Whoever was behind this knew exactly what he was doing, and they were getting desperate. But James was beyond fear now. He was too close to the truth. No matter what the cost, he would find out what had happened to Sophia. And when he did, Megan would have to answer for everything. The anonymous message, "Stop digging. You won't like what you find," buzzed in James's mind long after it disappeared from his phone screen. It wasn't just a warning, it was a threat. Someone was desperate to keep him from uncovering the truth, and the closer he got, the more dangerous this game became. But the message only fueled his determination. Whoever was behind this knew more than they were letting on, and James was done being played. The darkness in his life seemed to grow heavier with every new revelation about Megan. His nights were filled with restless sleep, his mind always racing, trying to connect the dots that had been eluding him for 15 years. He had once thought Megan was the only good thing left after Sophia's disappearance, the person who helped him survive his darkest days. Now, She was the one at the center of everything unraveling around him. The next morning, James's phone buzzed again. This time, it was from David Hale, the investigator. More news. Need to meet ASAP. James's pulse quickened. He'd been waiting for this. He sent a quick reply confirming the time and place before heading out of the house. As he left, he cast a glance toward the kitchen where Megan was sipping her coffee, reading the newspaper like any other morning. The image felt surreal. How could life continue on so normally while everything was falling apart? An hour later, James met David in a secluded corner of a park, away from prying eyes. David was already there, leaning against a bench, his expression grim. He had a folder in his hands, and James's stomach tightened at the sight of it. It seemed like every time they met, David had more evidence that would make James's world spin out of control. "You're not going to like this," David said, handing over the folder. James opened it, his hands steady despite the turmoil inside him. Inside were more records, emails, financial documents, even photographs. Megan's name was all over them. But what stood out the most were the custody documents. James's breath hitched as he scanned the pages. "These are for Sophia." His voice was barely a whisper. David nodded. "That's what I've been able to piece together. Megan was involved in some kind of legal battle over Sophia. These documents were sealed, but I found a way to get them. It looks like Megan fought to keep Sophia out of your life, and won." James's vision blurred as the weight of the revelation hit him. "She knew," he muttered. "All these years, she knew where Sophia was." David placed a hand on his shoulder, his voice steady. "It's worse than that, James. Megan didn't just know. She orchestrated it. She made sure you were kept in the dark, that Sophia was hidden from you." James felt a sickening wave of betrayal wash over him. Megan had known. She had lied. All the love, all the trust he had placed in her, it had been a facade, a carefully constructed lie designed to keep him away from his own daughter. His hands clenched into fists, his mind racing with anger, pain, and disbelief. "Why?" he asked, his voice rough. "Why would she do this?" David shook his head. "I don't know, but there's more. I've tracked down some leads on Sophia. I think she might still be out there, but whoever's been keeping her is careful. Very careful." James's heart skipped a beat. Sophia, alive. The possibility sent his mind into overdrive. For 15 years, he had imagined the worst, had grieved for a child he believed was lost to him forever. But now, the hope that she could still be out there, that he might find her, it was almost too much to bear. "Where?" James asked, his voice desperate. "Where is she?" David hesitated before speaking. "I don't have an exact location yet, but I'm getting close. There's a connection between Megan, the lawyer, and a private facility that handles special custody cases. It's possible Sophia was placed there, but I need more time to confirm." James's blood boiled with frustration, but he forced himself to stay calm. They were on the verge of a breakthrough. "Keep digging," he said, his voice tight with determination. "I need to find her. I need to know." David nodded. "I will, but James, be careful. Whoever sent that message, they're watching you. And if Megan finds out what you're doing..." James didn't need to hear the rest. He knew the risks. He knew that once he confronted Megan, there would be no turning back. But after everything he had uncovered, he couldn't stop. He had to see this through. That night, James returned home, his mind consumed with thoughts of Sophia. Megan was in the living room watching TV, her face calm and serene, as though she hadn't spent the last decade hiding a monumental secret from him. The sight of her, so at ease, made James's blood simmer with anger, but he forced it down. He couldn't act on his rage. Not yet. Megan looked up as he entered, giving him a small smile. "You've been out a lot lately," she said, her tone casual but laced with curiosity. "Everything okay?" James forced a smile, though it felt like a mask. "Yeah, just some business stuff. It's been keeping me busy." Megan studied him for a moment longer, as if trying to read him, but she didn't press further. "I made dinner," she said, her voice softer now. "Thought we could sit down and have a quiet night together." James's stomach turned at the thought of sitting down for a meal with her, pretending that everything was fine when he knew the depth of her betrayal. But he couldn't let her see how much he knew. Not yet. Sure, he said, forcing the words out. That sounds nice. They sat at the dining table, the soft clinking of silverware the only sound between them. Megan chatted idly about her day, about small things that no longer mattered to James. He barely heard her, his mind consumed with the weight of the truth he was holding inside. Every smile she gave him, every laugh, it all felt like a performance now, a carefully rehearsed act designed to keep him in the dark. When dinner was over, Megan cleared the dishes and James retreated to his office. He needed space, needed to think. His phone buzzed again, another message from the same anonymous number. You're close, too close. Stop, or she'll pay the price. James's blood ran cold as he read the words. Whoever this was, they were threatening Sophia now. The stakes had just been raised, and he knew that whoever was behind this was getting desperate. But James was beyond being intimidated. He had come too far to stop now. He quickly typed a reply. I'm not stopping. I'm finding her. The message sent, and James leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. He knew the risks. He knew that this investigation could put both him and Sophia in danger, but the truth was too important. After all these years, he owed it to Sophia and to himself to find out what had really happened. As James sat in his office, staring at the darkened city skyline, he knew that the next steps would be the hardest. Confronting Megan, finding Sophia, dealing with whoever was behind the threats, it all felt like a storm building on the horizon, and he was standing right in the middle of it. But one thing was clear, James would not rest until he had his daughter back, no matter what the cost. The days were dragging on, each one stretching the limits of James Thompson's patience. His life had become an elaborate performance, a game of lies and deception where the stakes were rising by the minute. Every morning, he would wake up beside Megan, knowing that she had stolen 15 years from him, keeping his daughter, Sophia, hidden, and every night he would stare at the ceiling, contemplating when and how he would finally confront her. The latest message, threatening Sophia's safety if he didn't stop digging, had rattled him more than he wanted to admit. But James knew one thing for sure. There was no turning back. Whoever was behind these threats, whoever was orchestrating this web of lies, they were getting desperate, and that meant he was close to the truth. James sat in his office, a pile of documents spread across the desk in front of him. The custody battle that Megan had hidden from him was his clearest lead, but the details were still frustratingly vague. What had she been fighting for? Was it really about keeping Sophia hidden, or was there something else at play? He picked up his phone and dialed David Hale, his private investigator. David answered almost immediately. I'm going to need you to dig deeper into Megan's connection with David Hale, James said, keeping his voice low. There's something about that custody case that doesn't add up. I need to know what she was hiding. David hesitated for a moment. James, we've already crossed a lot of lines. Whatever Megan was involved in, it's dangerous. Whoever sent those warnings, they're serious. You're putting yourself and Sophia at risk. I don't care, James replied, his voice hard. I need to find my daughter, whatever it takes. David sighed, but James knew he understood. All right, David said finally. I'll keep looking, but be careful. This is a delicate situation. If Megan gets even the slightest hint that you know what she's done, she might run, or worse. James hung up, his mind churning. He knew David was right. The more he uncovered, the more dangerous this became. But the idea of stopping, of letting Megan continue to live this lie, was unbearable. His whole life had been built on the belief that he had lost Sophia, that she had been taken from him forever. Now, that belief had shattered, and he was left to pick up the pieces. That evening, James returned home earlier than usual. Megan was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner, a glass of wine sitting on the counter beside her. The sight of her, so casual, so at ease, filled James with a mixture of anger and sadness. How could she stand there, living a normal life, knowing what she had done? "Hey," Megan said, glancing up at him with a smile. "You're home early." James forced a smile, though it felt tight, unnatural. "Thought I'd come home and spend some time with you." Megan's smile widened slightly, but there was still a hint of suspicion in her eyes. "That's a nice surprise." James walked over to her, wrapping his arms around her waist, his face inches from hers. For a moment, he just stood there, holding her, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. He had loved Megan, trusted her more than anyone, and now he didn't know who she was. Megan turned in his arms, her eyes searching his face. "Is everything all right, James? You've seemed distant lately." James's heart pounded in his chest. He had to be careful, had to keep playing the role until he had everything he needed, but it was getting harder by the day. "Work's just been stressful," he said, his voice steady. "I've been thinking about Sophia a lot." Megan's face softened, but James could see the flicker of discomfort in her eyes. "I know it's been hard for you," she said quietly, "but we've come so far. You've come so far. Maybe it's time to start thinking about the future, about us." James nodded, though the idea of moving forward with Megan felt like a betrayal. How could he think about the future when his past was still shrouded in lies? Later that night, after Megan had gone to bed, James sat in his office, staring at the custody documents again. Something about them didn't make sense. Why would Megan have fought so hard to keep Sophia hidden from him? The details were murky, but the financial records, the sealed documents, they all pointed to something bigger than just a custody dispute. As James flipped through the papers, his phone buzzed. It was another message from the anonymous number. "You think you're close, but you have no idea what's coming." James's hands clenched into fists. Whoever this was, they were trying to scare him, to make him back off, but all they were doing was pushing him further, making him more determined than ever to find the truth. He quickly typed a reply. "I'm not stopping. Not until I find her." The response came almost immediately. "Then you'd better be prepared for the consequences." James stared at the message, his mind racing. The threats were getting more direct, more personal. Whoever was behind this wasn't just trying to scare him anymore. They were trying to control him, and that meant they were close to losing control themselves. The next morning, James received a call from David Hale. His voice was tense, the urgency clear. "James, I've found something," David said. "It's about Megan and her connection to the lawyer. I think there's more to this custody case than we realized. There are documents, sealed, but I managed to get a look at some of them. It looks like Megan wasn't just trying to hide Sophia from you. She was trying to protect her from someone else." James's heart raced. Who was she protecting her from? "I don't have all the answers yet," David replied. "But there's another name that keeps coming up, David Hale. He's not just a lawyer, he's got ties to some questionable people. And whatever he's been doing for Megan, it's not just legal work. There's something deeper, something dangerous." James's mind reeled as he tried to make sense of it all. Could it be that Megan had been hiding Sophia to protect her from something worse? Or was this just another layer of lies, another way to manipulate him? "Keep digging," James said, his voice tight. "I need to know everything." That evening, as James sat at the dinner table with Megan, the weight of everything he had learned pressed down on him like a vice. Every word she spoke, every smile she gave him, it all felt false, tainted by the lies she had been living. "James?" Megan's voice broke through his thoughts. "You've been quiet all night. Are you sure everything's okay?" James looked up at her, forcing a smile. "Just tired," he said, though the lie tasted bitter on his tongue. Megan reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "I know things have been hard lately, but we're in this together, right? You and me." James swallowed hard, his chest tight with the weight of her words. Together. How could they be together when she had stolen his daughter from him, when she had built their entire life on a foundation of lies? "Yeah," James said softly, though the word felt like a betrayal. "Together." Later that night, As James lay in bed beside Megan, his mind whirled with the revelations David had uncovered. Megan had been hiding Sophia to protect her, but from who and why? The answers were just out of reach, but James knew one thing for certain. The truth was close, and when it finally came to light, nothing would ever be the same. The weight of the truth was slowly suffocating James Thompson. Every piece of evidence, every document, every message from his investigator, David Isse was unraveling the life he had known, exposing the lies at its core. Megan, his wife, the woman he had once trusted more than anyone, was involved in something deeper, something more sinister than he had ever imagined. James had become a man living two lives. During the day, he was the doting husband, the successful businessman going through the motions of a normal life. But at night, he was a man consumed by the search for his daughter, Sophia, and by the betrayal of the woman he had once loved. He knew he was close to finding the truth, but every step forward seemed to bring more danger, more questions. The latest revelation, that Megan had been protecting Sophia from someone, left James reeling. It contradicted everything he had believed up until now. Was Megan hiding their daughter from him, or was she trying to shield Sophia from a threat even greater than James could imagine? That morning, James left the house before Megan woke up, needing space to think. He drove aimlessly through the city, his mind racing. He pulled over near a quiet park and sat in his car, staring out at the world as it passed by, oblivious to the storm brewing inside him. His phone buzzed with a new message. It was from David. "We need to meet. I've uncovered something big." James's pulse quickened. He typed back quickly, setting a meeting for later that afternoon. The air felt thick with anticipation, and James knew that whatever David had found, it would bring him closer to the truth. But it also terrified him. Every new revelation had pulled him deeper into a dark abyss, and James wasn't sure what awaited him at the bottom. Later that day, James met David at a small cafe tucked away in a quiet part of town. The usual hum of the city seemed distant, as if the world outside had faded into the background. David was already seated, a serious expression on his face as James approached. "You're not going to like this," David began, his tone grim as he slid a folder across the table. "I managed to dig deeper into Megan's connection with David Hale, and it turns out this lawyer has been involved in some pretty shady dealings for years. He's connected to more than just custody cases. He's worked with some dangerous people." James opened the folder, his eyes scanning the documents. Inside were records of financial transactions, communications between Megan and Hale, and names that James didn't recognize. But what stood out most was a name that kept appearing in the documents: Alexander Corbett. "Who's Corbett?" James asked, his brow furrowing. David leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "Corbett is a high-profile figure involved in illegal dealings, everything from money laundering to human trafficking. He's been under investigation for years, but nothing's ever stuck. He's careful, operates under the radar. But here's the thing, he's connected to Hale. And Megan." James felt a chill run down his spine. "You're telling me Megan's involved with someone like this?" David nodded. "It's not clear how deep her involvement goes, but there's no denying that she's tied to Corbett through Hale. My guess is that Corbett was the one she was trying to protect Sophia from. Maybe she got mixed up with him years ago, and when things went south, she had to keep Sophia hidden." James's head spun as he tried to process the information. Megan had been protecting Sophia from someone dangerous, someone who might have hurt her. But why hadn't she told him? Why had she kept him in the dark? "Why wouldn't she tell me?" James asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Why go through all of this without letting me in on the truth?" David sighed. "Maybe she thought it was safer for you not to know, or maybe she didn't trust you to handle it. Whatever the reason, Megan's been living with this secret for a long time. And now that you're close to uncovering it, someone's trying to stop you." James clenched his fists under the table, his anger rising. He had spent years mourning his daughter, believing she was lost to him forever. All the while, Megan had been hiding her, protecting her from a man James hadn't even known existed. "I need to find Corbett," James said, his voice hard. "I need to know what he has to do with my daughter." David shook his head. "Corbett's not someone you can just find. He's elusive and he's dangerous. If you go after him without a plan, you'll be walking into a trap." James leaned forward, his voice low and intense. "I don't care. I've come this far, and I'm not stopping now. If Corbett's the one who's been threatening me, then I need to face him." David studied him for a moment before nodding slowly. "All right, I'll see what I can dig up on Corbett. But be careful, James. This isn't just about uncovering the truth anymore. You're dealing with people who will do anything to keep their secrets hidden." That night, James returned home, his mind spinning with thoughts of Corbett and the danger that now surrounded him. Megan was sitting in the living room, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the television. She looked up as he entered, her expression softening into a smile. "You're home late again," she said, her voice light, but there was an edge to it, an unspoken question hanging in the air. James forced a smile, though it felt strained. "Yeah, work's been crazy," he said, slipping off his coat and hanging it by the door. Megan's eyes lingered on him for a moment longer, and James could see the suspicion creeping into her gaze. She could sense that something was off, that the walls around her carefully constructed life were beginning to crack. But James wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. "Dinner's ready if you're hungry," Megan said, her voice softer now. James nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He needed to figure out how to confront Megan, how to get the truth out of her without tipping his hand too soon. Every conversation with her felt like walking through a minefield. One wrong move, and everything could blow up in his face. Later that night, as Megan slept beside him, James stared up at the ceiling, his mind racing. Corbett, the mysterious figure who seemed to be at the center of everything, was the key, but confronting him would be dangerous. James knew that, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. His phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. He reached for it, half expecting another threatening message, but when he unlocked the screen, he found something else entirely. It was a message from David. "I found Corbett. He's in town. You're not going to like this, but Megan's meeting him tomorrow night." James's heart pounded in his chest as he read the message. Megan was meeting Corbett, the woman he had shared his life with. The woman who had kept him in the dark for so long was still in contact with the very man who had torn his world apart. He quickly typed a response. "Where? I need to be there." David's reply came almost instantly. 9 p.m., private club downtown. I'll send you the address." James stared at the message, his mind reeling. This was it. The moment he had been waiting for. The moment he would finally get answers. But as he lay in the darkness, the weight of what was to come pressed down on him. Confronting Corbett, facing Megan, it was all coming to a head. And once the truth was out, there would be no turning back. James Thompson could feel the pressure of the impending confrontation bearing down on him as he sat in his office, staring at the message from David. Megan's secret meeting with Alexander Corbett was happening tonight, and it was the moment James had been preparing for. He had played his part carefully, keeping his suspicions hidden, waiting for the right moment to strike. Now, the time had come. James had always known this confrontation would change everything, but the weight of that reality felt overwhelming as the evening approached. His entire life, his marriage, his past, his search for Sophia, was about to collide with the truth that Megan had been hiding for so long. He packed a small bag with his essentials, his movements deliberate and controlled, despite the storm raging inside him. There was no telling how the night would end. All he knew was that once he faced Corbett and Megan, the life he had known would be over. Later that evening, James drove to the address David had sent him. The streets of downtown were alive with the usual bustle of city nightlife, but to James, the world outside felt distant, almost surreal. His focus was singular, finding out why Megan had kept him in the dark about Sophia and what Corbett had to do with it. The club was tucked away behind an unmarked door, one of those exclusive places where only the elite could enter without question. James parked his car around the corner, his heart pounding as he approached the entrance. His phone buzzed. Another message from David. "Corbett's already inside. Megan should be arriving soon. Be careful." James took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. He was walking into enemy territory, where the people who had been manipulating him for years now held all the cards. But James wasn't afraid anymore. His desperation to find Sophia, to uncover the truth, had overtaken any fear. He entered the club, immediately struck by the opulence of the place. Dim lighting, velvet furniture, the clink of expensive glasses in the hands of men and women who looked like they belonged to a different world. But James wasn't there to admire the surroundings. He scanned the room until his eyes landed on a man sitting in a private booth at the back, Alexander Corbett. He looked every bit the part of a man who controlled things from behind the scenes, calm, composed, dangerous. His dark suit was impeccably tailored, and his presence seemed to command the space around him. But what caught James's attention wasn't Corbett's polished exterior. It was the cold, calculating look in his eyes, as if he had already sized James up without even knowing him. James kept his distance, slipping into the shadows near the bar, his eyes fixed on the entrance. He didn't have to wait long. Megan arrived a few minutes later, dressed elegantly, her posture confident but tense. She moved through the club with purpose, as though she had done this before, as though she belonged in this world of secrets and lies. James's heart clenched at the sight of her. The woman he had built a life with, the woman he had loved, was walking into a meeting with a criminal, someone she had been hiding from him for years. His mind swirled with questions. How deep was her involvement with Corbett? Had she willingly become a part of this, or had she been forced into it? And most importantly, what did any of this have to do with Sophia? Megan approached Corbett's booth, and James watched as they exchanged a few words before sitting down together. The way they spoke, the way Megan leaned in close to Corbett, sent a chill down James's spine. This wasn't just a business meeting, it was personal. There was a familiarity between them that James couldn't ignore. Unable to hear their conversation, James pulled out his phone and texted David, "Can you access the surveillance in here? I need to hear what they're saying." David's response came quickly, "I'm working on it. Give me a minute." James's eyes never left Megan and Corbett as he waited for David to work his magic. He could feel the tension building, every second dragging on, as the distance between him and the truth seemed to grow. Megan and Corbett were deep in conversation, their expressions serious, their body language suggesting something more than a casual exchange. Finally, James's phone buzzed again. "Got it! Audio's live. I'll send you the feed." James plugged in his earpiece and listened, his heart racing as Megan's voice came through, clear but quiet. "I've done everything you asked," Megan said, her voice steady but with an edge of fear. "But you promised me that Sophia would be safe. You promised she'd never have to know." James's stomach dropped. His worst fears were being confirmed. Megan had known all along where Sophia was, and she had been working with Corbett to keep her hidden. Corbett's voice was smooth, almost dismissive. "And she has been, but things are getting messy. Your husband's getting too close, and now we have a problem." Megan's voice trembled, barely audible. "I can handle James. He doesn't know enough yet." James's breath hitched as he listened, the betrayal cutting deeper than he had ever imagined. Megan had been lying to him for years, working with Corbett to keep Sophia out of his reach. And now she was trying to control him, to manipulate him into staying in the dark. Corbett leaned back in his seat, his tone cold and calculating. "You've had years to handle this, Megan, and now look where we are. If James keeps digging, everything will fall apart. And if that happens, I won't be able to protect either of you." Megan's voice was desperate now. "You said this would be over, that once Sophia was safe, we could move on." Corbett's eyes narrowed. "There is no moving on from this, Megan, not unless you want to lose everything." James clenched his fists, the rage boiling inside him. He had been patient, he had waited for answers, but now he was done. He couldn't listen to this anymore. He couldn't watch Megan sit there and continue lying to him, continue playing a part in this twisted game. He stood up, his heart pounding as he moved toward their booth. His mind was a blur of anger, betrayal, and desperation. The moment he had been dreading was here, and he wasn't going to hide in the shadows any longer. When he reached the table, Megan looked up, her eyes widening in shock. Corbett's expression remained unreadable, though James could see the faintest flicker of amusement in his eyes, as if he had expected this. "James!" Megan's voice was shaky, her eyes pleading. "What are you doing here?" James stared at her, his heart heavy with the weight of her betrayal. "I could ask you the same thing." Megan's lips trembled, but before she could respond, Corbett stood up, his demeanor calm but dangerous. "Well, this just got interesting," he said, his voice low and controlled. "Looks like the secret's out." James's eyes locked onto Corbett, his voice filled with anger. "Where is my daughter?" Corbett raised an eyebrow, his lips curling into a faint smile. "That's the question, isn't it?" Megan reached out, her voice breaking. "James, please, I can explain." But James was done with explanations. The time for lies was over. The moment hung in the air like the silence before a storm, heavy with anticipation and unsaid words. James Thompson stood before his wife, Megan, and the man who had been hiding in the shadows of their lives. Alexander Corbett, his world, once so structured, had been shattered into pieces that no longer fit. The truth was now undeniable. Megan had been lying to him, keeping Sophia hidden, working with this dangerous man. And now, there was no going back. Megan sat frozen in the booth, her hands trembling slightly. She had spent years building walls of deceit, but now, with James standing before her, those walls were crumbling. Her eyes darted between him and Corbett, and James could see the fear bubbling just beneath the surface. But there was something else there too, something like regret or guilt. Corbett, on the other hand, remained calm, his calculating gaze watching the scene unfold as if it were an inevitable conclusion. He was the puppet master in all of this, the one who had pulled the strings behind the scenes, and now, as the lie unraveled, he seemed almost entertained. "James," Megan finally said, her voice weak, cracking under the weight of her emotions. "I can explain." James's fists clenched, his body tense with anger and betrayal. "Explain? You've been lying to me for 15 years, Megan. You've kept our daughter from me, and now you want to explain?" His words cut through the air like a knife, and Megan recoiled as if she'd been physically struck. She opened her mouth to speak, but Corbett interrupted, stepping forward with an air of authority. "I think you need to calm down, James," Corbett said, his voice smooth but with an undercurrent of menace. "This isn't the place for a family argument." James's eyes snapped to Corbett, fury blazing in them. "Where is she? Where is Sophia?" Corbett met James's gaze, unflinching. "You'll find out soon enough, but you're in no position to make demands right now." Before James could respond, Megan stood, her face pale and her expression pleading. "James, please, let me explain. I was trying to protect Sophia. I did what I thought was best." James's heart pounded in his chest, his mind racing. Protect her? From what? From him? The thought made his stomach churn with anger and confusion. "Protect her from what, Megan?" he demanded, his voice rising. "From me? You had no right to take her away from me. You had no right to make that decision." Megan took a shaky breath, her eyes brimming with tears. "It wasn't about you. It was about keeping her safe from people like Corbett." James glanced at Corbett, whose expression remained unreadable. "Then why are you working with him?" James asked, his voice filled with bitterness. "If he's so dangerous, why did you stay involved with him all these years?" Megan wiped at her eyes, struggling to find the words. "I didn't have a choice. I got involved with Corbett years ago, before Sophia was born. I thought it was just business, but it became something else. When things started to fall apart, I realized he wasn't someone I could just walk away from. And when Sophia was born, I knew I had to protect her. I thought the only way to do that was to keep her hidden, to make sure she was far away from all of this. James stared at her, his mind whirling with disbelief. Megan's words hit him like a blow. Had her betrayal really been out of fear, out of some twisted sense of protection? It didn't make sense. Why had she kept him in the dark? Why hadn't she trusted him? "You should have told me," James said, his voice thick with emotion. "I would have protected her. I would have fought for her." Megan shook her head, her voice cracking. "I was scared, James. I was scared of what Corbett would do if I left him, if I tried to take Sophia away. I thought the only way to keep her safe was to make sure you never found her. Corbett agreed to help, but I didn't realize how deep I'd get in." James looked at Corbett again, his blood boiling with fury. Corbett had been manipulating Megan, using her fear to control her, and now, standing here in front of them both, James could see the full extent of Corbett's power. "So that's it," James said, his voice trembling with anger. "You made some deal with him, and Sophia disappeared. You thought I'd just forget about her, that I'd stop looking." Megan wiped at her face, trying to hold herself together. "I thought it was the only way, but I was wrong. I should have told you the truth." James took a step closer to her, his voice low and filled with pain. "You took my daughter from me. You took her life away. And for what? To keep her hidden from this man. You destroyed us." Megan's face crumpled, the guilt and the weight of her choices finally catching up with her. "I know, James. I know I made a mistake, but I thought..." "Enough." Corbett's voice cut through the air, his calm facade breaking just slightly. He stepped between them, his expression hardening. "This isn't a therapy session. Megan made her choices, and so did I. Sophia is where she needs to be." James's heart pounded in his chest as Corbett's words hit him. "Where is she? Tell me where my daughter is." Corbett smiled, a slow, chilling smile that made James's blood run cold. "You're not ready for that yet. You've come this far, but you don't understand how deep this goes. You think finding Sophia will solve everything, but you don't know the whole story." James's hands shook with rage. "What are you talking about? What have you done?" Corbett leaned in slightly, his voice low and filled with dark amusement. "You think this is just about a missing girl? You have no idea what you're up against, James. Sophia is just one piece of the puzzle." James's mind reeled. Every instinct screamed at him to grab Corbett, to force him to tell him everything, but he knew that Corbett was right about one thing. This wasn't just about Sophia anymore. It was about something bigger, something more dangerous. Megan's voice broke through the tension, filled with desperation. "Please, Corbett, tell him. He deserves to know." Corbett turned to Megan, his expression cold. "It's not time yet. He's not ready." James stepped forward, his fists clenched at his sides. "I don't care what you think I'm ready for. I want my daughter, and I want her now." Corbett stared at him for a long moment, his eyes narrowing. "You'll get your daughter, James, but not until I say so." James felt the rage boiling inside him, but before he could react, Megan reached out, grabbing his arm. "James, please," she whispered. "We have to be careful. Corbett isn't someone you can just fight. He controls everything." James pulled his arm away from her, his chest tight with emotion. "You've let him control you for too long. I'm done being careful." Corbett gave a slow, measured nod, his expression filled with dark amusement. "Then I guess we'll see how far you're willing to go." Without another word, Corbett turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the club. The room seemed to exhale as he left, the tension breaking, but James felt no relief. The storm inside him had only grown stronger. He turned to Megan, his voice raw. "You lied to me. You lied to me for years. How am I supposed to forgive that?" Megan's face crumpled, her tears spilling over. "I don't expect you to forgive me, James. I just want you to understand why I did it." But James didn't know if he could understand. The betrayal cut too deep. The silence that followed Alexander Corbett's departure was deafening. James stood frozen, his mind reeling from the confrontation that had just unfolded. He had spent years imagining this moment, the day when he would finally uncover the truth about Sophia and Megan's betrayal. But now, as he stood in the dimly lit club, the reality of it all felt too big to process. His daughter was still out there, hidden from him, and the man who had the answers, Corbett, had walked away, leaving James more confused and angrier than ever. Megan sat back down in the booth, her hands shaking as she buried her face in them. James stared at her, his heart pounding with a mix of rage, sorrow, and disbelief. This was the woman he had trusted, the woman he had loved for years, and she had kept his daughter from him all along. "How long?" James finally asked, his voice hoarse from the weight of his emotions. "How long have you been lying to me?" Megan looked up at him, her eyes red with tears. "James, Don't give me excuses," he cut her off, his voice sharp. "I need the truth. No more lies, no more half-truths. I need to know how long you've been hiding Sophia from me." Megan swallowed hard, her gaze dropping to the floor. "Since the day she disappeared," she whispered. "Since the very beginning." James's body went cold. His hands shook at his sides, the truth finally settling over him like a suffocating blanket. Every day, every year that had passed, Megan had known. She had known where Sophia was, and she had chosen to keep him in the dark. The enormity of the betrayal hit him all at once. "You've been lying to me for 15 years, James said, his voice breaking. "You made me think she was gone. You let me grieve. And all this time she was out there and you did nothing." Megan stood, her voice trembling as she tried to explain. "I was trying to protect her, James. I was trying to protect all of us. You don't understand. Corbett, he's not just some criminal, he's powerful. He controls people, entire networks. If I had told you, if we had gone looking for her, he would have killed us. I didn't have a choice." James took a step toward her, his fists clenched, barely able to contain his anger. "You always had a choice, Megan. You could have trusted me. You could have told me the truth. But instead, you let him control you. You let him take everything from us." Megan's tears fell freely now, her hands shaking as she wiped at her face. "I know, James. I know I should have told you, but every time I wanted to, I was afraid. I thought keeping her hidden was the only way to keep her safe." James's mind whirled with conflicting emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion. He wanted to believe that Megan had acted out of fear, that she had been forced into this situation. But he couldn't shake the feeling that she had made the wrong choice at every turn. "I trusted you," he said quietly, his voice filled with hurt. "I built a life with you, and you lied to me about the most important thing in my life." Megan stepped closer, her hands reaching for his. "James, please. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought we could eventually move on, that we could have a life without all of this." James pulled away from her, shaking his head. "Move on? How could you possibly think we could move on from this? You stole my daughter from me. You destroyed everything." Megan's face crumpled with guilt, but James couldn't bring himself to comfort her. His heart was too full of anger, too full of the pain of knowing that the life they had built together was nothing but a lie. "I have to find her," James said, his voice resolute. "I'm going to get my daughter back, no matter what it takes, and I'm not going to stop until I do." Megan nodded, her face pale. "I'll help you. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." James stared at her, his heart heavy with doubt. Could he trust her now, after everything? Could he believe that she would truly help him, or was this just another lie? "I don't know if I can trust you anymore, Megan," James said, his voice hollow. "You've already betrayed me once. How do I know you won't do it again?" Megan's eyes filled with fresh tears. "I swear, James, I'll do whatever it takes to find Sophia. I just want her to be safe." James took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He didn't have a choice. Whether he trusted Megan or not, she was the only link he had to Corbett and to Sophia. If he was going to get his daughter back, he would need Megan's help, no matter how broken their relationship was. That night, James returned home alone, his mind swirling with everything that had happened. Megan had stayed behind to talk to Corbett, to try to find a way forward, but James wasn't sure how much he trusted her to handle it. He felt like he was walking through a minefield, unsure of who to trust, unsure of what his next move should be. His phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. He reached for it, his heart skipping a beat when he saw a message from David Hale. "I've found something. Meet me tomorrow morning." James stared at the message, a mix of hope and dread settling over him. David had been working tirelessly to uncover more about Corbett's network, and whatever he had found could be the breakthrough James needed, but it could also be the final piece of the puzzle, the one that would confirm just how deep this conspiracy went. James collapsed onto the couch, his body heavy with exhaustion. The weight of the truth was crushing him, and he didn't know how much longer he could carry it. Megan's betrayal, the years he had spent grieving for a daughter who was still alive, the danger that now surrounded them. It was all too much. His mind wandered to Sophia, the daughter he had loved, the daughter he had lost. She had been 6 years old when she disappeared, innocent, full of life, her whole future ahead of her. He had missed so much, 15 years of her growing up, becoming a young woman, making memories that he would never be a part of. A sharp pain stabbed at his chest, and James realized that he didn't even know who Sophia was anymore. The little girl he had loved was gone, replaced by someone he didn't know, someone who had been living a life without him. How would she react if he found her? Would she even remember him? Or had Corbett and Megan's lies poisoned her mind, making her believe that he had abandoned her? James closed his eyes, the exhaustion overwhelming him. The answers were so close, but every step forward seemed to open new wounds. The closer he got to the truth, the more his life fell apart. The next morning, James arrived at the designated meeting spot, a quiet cafe on the outskirts of the city. David was already there, sitting at a table near the back, his expression serious. He had a folder in front of him, and James's heart skipped a beat. This was it. Whatever David had uncovered, it would change everything. As James sat down, David slid the folder across the table. "I found something you need to see." James opened the folder, his hands trembling slightly as he scanned the documents inside. His heart pounded as the pieces of the puzzle began to come together, revealing a picture more horrifying than he had imagined. Megan's betrayal had been just the beginning. Corbett's reach was far deeper than James had realized, and the truth about Sophia's disappearance was tied to something much larger, something that threatened to destroy them all. James sat across from David Hale in the dimly lit cafe, his heart pounding as he stared down at the folder. The weight of everything he'd uncovered so far felt like a boulder pressing on his chest, but whatever David had found was the missing piece. It was the final link in the chain that would expose the full truth about Sophia, about Megan's betrayal, and about the dangerous man, Alexander Corbett, who had controlled their lives from the shadows. David's eyes were serious, his face grim. "What you're about to see changes everything, James. This is bigger than just a custody battle or a disappearance. This goes much deeper." James's hands trembled as he opened the folder. Inside were documents, photos, and financial records, all tied together in a tangled web of deception that stretched back further than he'd imagined. One name kept appearing throughout the paperwork: Corbett's, always in the background, always pulling the strings. David leaned forward, his voice low. "Corbett's not just some criminal, James. He's involved in human trafficking, illegal arms deals, and a network that spans countries. And Sophia, she's at the center of it." James's blood ran cold. "What do you mean? Why would Corbett want anything to do with Sophia?" David pointed to one of the documents, a sealed record from a government investigation. "It looks like Sophia was used as leverage. Corbett took her to control Megan. When Sophia was born, Megan unknowingly got mixed up with Corbett's operations. He used her, forced her to help him launder money and cover up his tracks. When Megan wanted out, he took Sophia as collateral to ensure she stayed loyal." James's stomach churned. The idea that his daughter had been used as a pawn in Corbett's empire, that Megan had been trapped for years, forced to betray him out of fear for their daughter. It was too much to bear. "But why not come to me?" James asked, his voice thick with anger and desperation. "Why not tell me the truth so I could help her?" David shook his head. "Corbett has connections everywhere. He could ruin anyone who crosses him." Megan was terrified, and I think she believed the only way to protect you and Sophia was to keep you both apart. James's mind raced as the pieces began to fall into place. For years, he had thought Sophia was gone, lost to some tragedy he could never understand. But now, the truth was worse than he'd ever imagined. His daughter had been taken, used as leverage in a world of crime and corruption, while Megan had been trapped in a nightmare. "I have to find her," James said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I have to get her back." David nodded. "I've been tracking Corbett's movements. He's careful, but we're close. He's got safe houses all over the city, places where he hides people, moves them around. I've narrowed it down to 3 locations where he might be keeping Sophia." James's pulse quickened. This was it, the lead he'd been waiting for, the chance to finally find his daughter and bring her home. "Tell me where," James said, determination burning in his eyes. David hesitated for a moment. "James, I need you to understand something. Corbett is dangerous. This isn't just about finding Sophia. Once you go after him, you're stepping into his world, and that world has no rules. If you confront him without a plan, without the right people backing you up, you won't make it out alive, and neither will Sophia." James's fists clenched, his heart pounding with a mix of rage and fear. He knew David was right. Corbett was a man who operated in the shadows, who controlled everything around him with money, power, and fear. But James didn't care. He couldn't let fear stop him now. "I don't have a choice," James said firmly. "I've already lost 15 years with my daughter. I'm not losing any more." David studied him for a long moment before nodding. "All right, I'll set everything up, but we have to move carefully. Corbett knows people are looking for him, and if he senses anything's off, he'll disappear and take Sophia with him." James nodded, though the idea of waiting, of being cautious, grated against every instinct in his body. He wanted to charge in, to tear Corbett's world apart, to take back what had been stolen from him. But David was right. He couldn't act recklessly, not when Sophia's life was on the line. That night, James returned home with the weight of the world on his shoulders. The house felt cold, empty, as if the walls themselves were echoing the lies and secrets that had filled it for so many years. Megan was in the kitchen when he walked in, her face pale and drawn. She hadn't slept since the confrontation at the club, and James could see the fear in her eyes, the fear that everything was about to come crashing down. She looked up when he entered, her voice trembling. "Did you find out anything?" James nodded, though his expression was hard, unreadable. "David found some leads. Corbett's been using Sophia to control you, hasn't he?" Megan's eyes filled with tears as she nodded. "I wanted to tell you, James, but I was so scared. Corbett made it clear. If I tried to leave, if I tried to take Sophia back, he would kill us both." James's jaw clenched as he struggled to control the rage building inside him. "You should have trusted me, Megan. You should have told me the truth from the beginning." Megan wiped at her eyes, her voice breaking. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought if you stayed out of it, if you didn't know, Corbett would leave you alone." James shook his head, his heart aching with a mixture of anger and sorrow. "You didn't protect me. You destroyed us." Megan collapsed onto a chair, her body trembling with sobs. I know I ruined everything, but I thought it was the only way." James stood there, his fists clenched, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. Part of him wanted to comfort her, to tell her that everything would be okay, but another part of him, the part that had been broken by her lies, couldn't forgive her. "Not yet. You have to help me," James said quietly, his voice tight. "We're going after Corbett. We're going to get Sophia back." Megan looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear. "You can't. Corbett will kill you. He'll kill all of us." James's expression hardened. "I don't care. I'm not letting him keep her any longer." Megan shook her head, her voice pleading. "James, please, we need to be careful. Corbett has people everywhere. If he finds out you're coming for him, he'll disappear, and you'll never find Sophia." James stared at her, his heart heavy. "That's why you're going to help me. You know his movements, his habits. You've been close to him for years. You're the only one who can help us track him down." Megan hesitated, fear flashing in her eyes, but she knew James was right. There was no other option. If they wanted to get Sophia back, they would have to confront Corbett, and Megan, as much as she feared him, was the only one who knew how. "I'll help you," Megan said softly, her voice filled with resolve. "I'll do whatever it takes to get her back." James nodded, though the distance between them remained. They were allies now, but the trust between them had been shattered, and James wasn't sure if it could ever be repaired. The following days were filled with tension and quiet preparation. David worked tirelessly, tracking Corbett's movements, narrowing down his possible locations. Megan provided whatever information she could, though her fear of Corbett lingered in every word she spoke. James moved like a man possessed, his every thought consumed by the need to rescue Sophia, to bring his daughter home. But with every step closer they got, the danger grew. Corbett wasn't just a criminal, he was a man who thrived on power, and he wouldn't let go of Sophia easily. James knew the final confrontation was coming, and when it did, there would be no going back. James Thompson's world had become a battleground of emotions, rage, betrayal, and a relentless determination to find Sophia. As the days passed, the tension in his home grew unbearable. Megan moved through the house like a ghost, her guilt and fear palpable in every glance, while James remained laser-focused on the mission ahead. The trust between them was shattered beyond repair, yet they found themselves bound by a singular goal: getting Sophia back. David Hale had been working tirelessly to track Alexander Corbett, mapping out his movements and narrowing down his safe houses. James could feel the momentum building, and with every new lead, he sensed that the moment of reckoning was drawing closer. But the closer they got, the more dangerous it became. One evening, as James sat in his office reviewing the latest intel David had sent, Megan knocked softly on the door before stepping in. She looked worn down, her eyes hollow, and the tension between them was as thick as ever. "James," she began, her voice fragile, "we need to talk." James barely looked up, his jaw clenched. He was still furious with her, unable to move past the years of deception that had torn them apart. "What is it, Megan?" he asked coldly. Megan hesitated for a moment before stepping further into the room, her hands wringing nervously. "I know you're angry, and I don't blame you, but I need you to understand. Corbett wasn't just a mistake I made. He became a part of my life that I couldn't escape. When I realized how dangerous he was, I did everything I could to protect Sophia." James closed his laptop and looked at her, his gaze hard. "And you thought keeping her from me was protection?" Megan's face crumpled, her voice breaking. "I thought if you stayed away, Corbett wouldn't come after you. He made me believe that as long as I did what he wanted, he would keep Sophia safe, and I was terrified of what he'd do if you got involved." James shook his head, his anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "You should have trusted me. You should have let me protect my daughter instead of making me live with the lie that she was gone." Megan wiped at her tears, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. I know I can never make this right. But I'll do whatever it takes to fix it now. I'll help you bring her back." James's jaw tightened as he stared at her, torn between his love for the woman he once knew and the deep well of betrayal that now defined their relationship. He wanted to forgive her, but the wound was too fresh, too raw. "You're going to help me," James said, his voice cold and resolute, "because this is your mess. But don't think for a second that this makes up for what you've done." Megan nodded, her face a mask of guilt and determination. "I understand. I'll do whatever you need." The next morning, David called with an update. "I've pinpointed Corbett's likely location," David said. "He's been holed up in a mansion just outside the city. It's heavily guarded, but based on the intel I've gathered, Sophia is there." James's heart raced as he processed the information. This was it. After all these years, he was finally going to face the man who had stolen his daughter and held her hostage in a web of lies. "I'm going in," James said, his voice hard with resolve. David paused, his tone serious. "James, this isn't a simple operation. Corbett has connections, resources. You need to be prepared for anything. We can't rush in without a plan." James clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. He didn't want to wait. He wanted to charge in, tear the place apart, and bring Sophia home. But David was right. Corbett was a dangerous man, and if they weren't careful, they could lose everything. "What do you suggest?" James asked, his voice tight. "We'll need to go in quietly, gather more information on the layout, the guards, and any potential threats. We can't afford to make any mistakes." James took a deep breath, forcing himself to remain calm. He couldn't let his emotions take over. Not now. Sophia's life depended on it. "All right," James said finally, "but we're not waiting any longer than we have to. I want to get my daughter out of there." David agreed, and they began to finalize the details of the operation. Megan provided what little information she had on Corbett's habits and the security measures he often used, though it was clear that even she didn't know everything. That night, James lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind consumed with thoughts of Sophia. He tried to picture what she might look like now, 15 years older, no longer the little girl he remembered. She had been so full of life, so innocent. How had she changed? What had Corbett done to her, and how had he twisted her view of the world? James couldn't stop thinking about the moment they would finally reunite. Would she even recognize him? Would she hate him for not finding her sooner? The thought gnawed at him, filling him with dread. Beside him, Megan shifted in her sleep, her presence a reminder of everything that had gone wrong. They had once shared a life filled with love, trust, and happiness. Now, all that remained between them was broken trust and the weight of their shared mistakes. James closed his eyes, willing himself to get some rest. He needed to be sharp, to be ready for what was coming. Tomorrow, everything would change. The following day, James, David, and a small team of trusted men moved into position outside Corbett's mansion. It was an imposing structure, surrounded by high walls and security cameras. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, their movements precise and disciplined. Corbett wasn't taking any chances. James crouched behind a tree, his eyes scanning the property. His heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He knew this was their best chance to get Sophia back, but the risks were enormous. David knelt beside him, his expression tense. "We'll move in once the guards change shifts. It'll give us a small window to breach the security without triggering alarms." James nodded, his jaw set. The plan was simple but risky. They would infiltrate the mansion, neutralize any threats, and extract Sophia before Corbett even knew they were there. As they waited for the right moment, James's mind wandered to Sophia again. He imagined what it would feel like to finally hold her, to tell her that he had never stopped searching, that he had never given up. He would do whatever it took to make up for the lost time, to give her the life she deserved. But as the minutes ticked by, the reality of the situation sank in. Corbett wouldn't let them take Sophia without a fight, and James knew that this could end in blood. When the signal came, James moved swiftly and silently through the shadows, his heart pounding with anticipation. The team worked in unison, disabling the cameras and neutralizing the guards with precision. As they breached the mansion's entrance, James's pulse quickened. They were inside. The corridors were dimly lit, the air thick with tension. James led the way, his senses on high alert. Every creak of the floor, every distant sound sent a surge of adrenaline through his body. Finally, they reached a large door at the end of the hallway. David signaled for the team to stop, his hand resting on the handle. "This is it," he whispered. "She's in there." James's heart raced as David slowly opened the door, revealing a dimly lit room beyond. And there, standing in the center of the room, was Sophia. James Thompson's breath caught in his throat the moment he laid eyes on Sophia. She stood in the center of the dimly lit room, her back to him, unaware of his presence. His heart pounded, his pulse echoing in his ears. 15 years had passed, yet in this moment, everything seemed to collapse into a single, agonizing heartbeat. The little girl he had once known was now a young woman, her posture tense, her frame delicate but strong. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times, how he would feel, what he would say, but now that it was here, James found himself frozen. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The weight of the years lost between them settled over him like a heavy fog. Sophia turned slowly, her eyes locking onto his. The recognition was instant, though her expression was guarded, her face unreadable. James's heart swelled with emotion, but something in her gaze made him pause. This wasn't the joyful reunion he had dreamed of. There was hesitation in her eyes, as if she wasn't sure whether she was seeing a father she had been waiting for or a ghost from a life she had left behind. "Sophia," James finally managed, his voice raw and thick with emotion. She didn't move, didn't speak. Her face softened slightly, but her eyes remained cautious, like someone unsure whether to trust what they were seeing. The room felt charged with unspoken words, emotions too tangled to unravel in this single moment. David, standing behind James, cleared his throat quietly. "We don't have much time," he whispered, his tone urgent. "We need to move before Corbett realizes we're here." James nodded, though his gaze never left Sophia. He took a hesitant step toward her, but she didn't move. The distance between them, physical and emotional, seemed insurmountable. "Sophia, I'm here to take you home," James said, his voice trembling with the weight of those words. "I've been looking for you for so long." Sophia's brow furrowed slightly, her hands fidgeting at her sides. "Home?" she echoed, her voice soft but tinged with uncertainty. "What home? I don't even know you." The words hit James like a punch to the gut. He had anticipated this, had known that after so many years, she might not remember him the way he remembered her. But hearing it aloud, hearing her question his place in her life, was more painful than he'd imagined. "I'm your father," James said, his voice faltering. "I never gave up on you. I never stopped looking." Sophia's eyes flickered with something, pain, confusion, maybe even anger. "My father. The man I was told abandoned me. The man who left me with nothing." James's blood ran cold. "What? No, that's not true. I never abandoned you, Sophia. I was told you were gone, that you were taken from me." Sophia took a step back, her face hardening. "That's not what I was told. I grew up thinking you didn't want me, that you never cared." James felt his chest tighten, the truth clawing at him. "Who told you that? Was it Corbett? Did he—" Before James could finish, a voice cut through the tension, chilling and smooth. "Ah, so the family reunion finally happens." Corbett stepped into the room, his presence immediately dominating the space. He looked from James to Sophia, a smug smile playing on his lips. His calm, collected demeanor was unnerving, as though he had anticipated this moment all along. James's fists clenched at his sides, his rage boiling just beneath the surface. "You lied to her. You told her I didn't want her, that I abandoned her. You twisted everything." Corbett shrugged, his smile never faltering. "I did what was necessary. You were a loose end, James, and I don't like loose ends." Sophia glanced between the two men, her confusion evident. "What is this? Why are you both here? What's going on?" Corbett's eyes gleamed as he stepped towards Sophia. "Oh, you see, Sophia, your father and I have very different ideas about what's best for you. He thinks he can take you back, erase the past, and pretend none of this ever happened. But you know the truth. You know what I've done for you, what I've given you." Sophia's expression wavered, her hands trembling slightly. You told me I had no one. You told me he left." Corbett reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder, his tone soft but manipulative. I told you what you needed to hear to survive. You're stronger because of it, aren't you? You've been protected, cared for. James stepped forward, his voice hard and unwavering. You've manipulated her, Corbett. You've used her as leverage, kept her away from her family. I'm not letting you control her any longer. Corbett's eyes flicked to James, his smile darkening. Control? No, James. I've given her freedom. You, on the other hand, want to drag her back into a life she doesn't even remember. Sophia's head was spinning, her eyes darting between the two men, both claiming to want what was best for her. The life she had known, the truth she had believed, was unraveling before her eyes. For so long, she had accepted the story Corbett had told her, that she had been abandoned, unwanted. And now, standing before her was the father she had thought was lost to her, telling her a different story, a story of love and searching, of a family torn apart by lies. I don't know who to believe, Sophia whispered, her voice trembling. Everything I thought I knew. James's heart broke at the sight of her confusion, the years of manipulation evident in every doubt that clouded her mind. He took another step forward, his voice softening. Sophia, please. I know this is overwhelming, but you have to believe me. I never stopped looking for you. I never gave up. Sophia stared at him, tears welling in her eyes, but she didn't respond. The years of lies, the walls Corbett had built around her, were too thick to break down in an instant. Corbett watched the exchange with amusement, but there was a glint of warning in his eyes. She's not the little girl you lost, James. She's not yours to take anymore. James's fists clenched again, his rage boiling over. She's my daughter. You don't get to decide what happens to her. Corbett's smile vanished, his expression turning cold. You're in over your head, James. You don't understand how deep this goes. But before Corbett could say anything more, a sound echoed through the mansion, a distant alarm, faint but growing louder. David, who had been standing guard outside, burst into the room. We need to go, now! James's heart raced as the reality of the situation crashed down on him. They had to get out, and fast. Sophia, come with me, James said urgently, reaching out his hand. We don't have time. Sophia hesitated, her eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. Corbett stood beside her, his presence a dark cloud over the room, his influence still holding her in place. Go with your father, David urged, his voice tense. We can protect you. Sophia's gaze flickered between James and Corbett, her entire world unraveling in a matter of moments. Finally, with a deep breath, she stepped forward, toward James. Corbett's expression darkened, but he didn't move. This isn't over, he warned, his voice low and dangerous. You're making a mistake, Sophia. But she didn't look back. As James led her toward the exit, the sound of the alarm growing louder, he knew this was only the beginning of their fight. Corbett wasn't going to let her go easily, and the road ahead would be fraught with danger. But for the first time in 15 years, James had his daughter back by his side, and he wasn't going to lose her again. The sound of the alarm echoed through the corridors of Corbett's mansion, a stark reminder that the clock was ticking. James Thompson tightened his grip on Sophia's hand as they moved swiftly down the hallway, David and the team right behind them. The urgency of the moment gripped him, his heart pounding not just from the physical exertion, but from the emotional weight of having his daughter by his side after 15 long years. But this wasn't the reunion he had imagined. Sophia's hand was cold, her grip tentative, like she was still unsure whether she could trust him. The look in her eyes when she had first seen him, that guarded hesitation, had cut deeper than he wanted to admit. Corbett's manipulation had left deep scars, and James knew the road to healing would be long. But right now, all that mattered was getting her out of here. They reached the back exit of the mansion, where a black SUV waited, engine running. David ushered them toward the car, his gaze darting between the shadows. We don't have much time. Corbett will have his men swarming the place any second. James opened the door for Sophia, helping her into the back seat before sliding in beside her. He glanced at her, but she stared straight ahead, her jaw tight. There was so much he wanted to say, but the danger they were in left no room for emotional conversations. That would have to wait. David jumped into the passenger seat, and the driver, one of David's trusted men, hit the gas. The SUV sped down the driveway, tires screeching as they took a sharp turn toward the gate. James's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, glancing at the screen. Megan. A knot formed in his stomach. She was still at the safe house they had set up, waiting for news. He hadn't told her they were making the move tonight, wanting to keep her safe and out of Corbett's crosshairs. He sent a quick text. "We've got her. On our way." A mixture of relief and fear surged through him. They had Sophia, but the danger was far from over. Corbett wasn't the type of man to let things go. He would come for them, and James knew they had to stay ahead of whatever retaliation was coming. As the SUV sped through the winding back roads, Sophia finally spoke, her voice low and distant. "Where are we going?" James turned to her, his chest tightening at the sound of her voice. It was the first time she had spoken directly to him since they had left the mansion. "To a safe place," he replied softly. "We have a team ready to protect you. No one will hurt you anymore." Sophia's gaze remained fixed on the passing scenery, her expression unreadable. "I don't know who to believe anymore," she muttered. "Everything I thought I knew. Corbett told me you didn't care, that you left me behind." James's heart ached at the pain in her voice. He leaned forward slightly, wanting so badly to bridge the gap between them. "Sophia, I never stopped looking for you. The moment you disappeared, my world fell apart. I spent every day searching, hoping, but Corbett made sure I couldn't find you." Sophia's eyes flickered with something, confusion, hurt, but she didn't say anything in response. The years of lies Corbett had fed her had twisted her understanding of the past, and James could see that breaking through those lies wouldn't be easy. He had to be patient, no matter how much it hurt. As the SUV continued down the road, the tension inside the vehicle was thick. David kept his eyes on the road ahead, his expression focused, while James sat in the back, his thoughts racing. They had escaped, but it felt too easy. Corbett wasn't the type to let things slip through his fingers so easily, and James was right. Out of nowhere, a black car appeared behind them, gaining speed rapidly. James tensed, his eyes narrowing as he watched the car close the distance between them. "We've got company," David said, his voice tight. He turned to the driver. "Faster! Don't let them catch us." The SUV accelerated, but the black car was relentless, tailing them with precision. James's pulse quickened, his body on high alert. He glanced at Sophia, who had noticed the car as well, her face pale with fear. "They're coming after us, aren't they?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. James nodded, his voice steady. "Yes, but we're not going to let them catch us. You're safe with me, Sophia, I promise." The car behind them suddenly swerved, trying to overtake. The driver of the SUV made a sharp turn onto a side road, but the black car followed, its headlights glaring in the rearview mirror. David grabbed his phone and barked orders into it, calling for backup. "We're being followed. I need reinforcements now." The SUV swerved again, trying to lose the tail, but the black car was persistent. It became clear that this was no ordinary pursuit. Corbett had sent his men, and they weren't going to give up easily. James's heart pounded in his chest as he thought of Sophia, terrified in the back seat. He had promised to protect her, and he wasn't going to fail now, but he knew they were running out of time. Suddenly, the black car accelerated, pulling up alongside the SUV. James braced himself, expecting them to ram into the side, but instead, the passenger window of the black car rolled down, and a man leaned out, gun in hand. "Down!" James shouted, pulling Sophia toward him just as the gun fired. The sound of bullets ripping through the air filled the vehicle, shattering one of the windows. The driver swerved, trying to avoid the gunfire, but the black car was relentless. James shielded Sophia with his body, his heart racing. He felt the wind from the shattered window, the chaos of the moment pressing down on him. "David, we need to get out of here," James shouted. David was already on it, He gave the driver quick instructions, and the SUV made a sudden, sharp turn down a narrow dirt road. The black car followed, but in the confusion, they clipped a tree, spinning out of control. James watched as the car skidded, crashing into a ditch, disappearing from view. The SUV sped forward, gaining distance, and for the first time in what felt like hours, James allowed himself to breathe. They finally reached the safe house, a secluded cabin deep in the woods, far from any prying eyes. David and the driver secured the perimeter, checking for any signs of pursuit, while James helped Sophia out of the car. She was shaken, her face pale, but she was unharmed. "Are you okay?" James asked, his voice gentle. Sophia nodded, though her hands were still trembling. I didn't think." James placed a hand on her shoulder, trying to comfort her. "Ud, you're safe now. No one's going to hurt you." She looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and uncertainty. "You really didn't leave me, did you?" James's heart swelled with emotion. He shook his head. "No, Sophia, I never left you. I've been fighting to bring you home since the day you were taken." For the first time since they had left Corbett's mansion, Sophia's expression softened. She still looked confused, scared, but there was something else in her eyes now. Hope. The wall between them was still there, but it was starting to crack. Inside the cabin, James set her up in one of the rooms, giving her some space. He knew she needed time to process everything, and he wasn't going to rush her. But now that they had escaped, the real fight was just beginning. Corbett wasn't going to stop. He would come after them, and James had to be ready. Later that night, James stood on the porch of the cabin, staring out at the darkened forest. His mind was racing, trying to plan their next move. He had Sophia back, but the battle wasn't over. David joined him on the porch, his face grim. "We lost them for now, but Corbett's not going to let this go. He'll come after her, James. You need to be ready." James nodded, his jaw clenched. "I know. And when he does, I'll be waiting." David gave him a long, searching look. "This isn't just about you anymore. You have Sophia to think about. You need to protect her." James's gaze hardened, his resolve unshakable. "I'm not going to let him take her again, no matter what it takes." The wind rustled through the trees, the night thick with tension. Corbett was out there and he was coming for them. But James wasn't going to run. Not anymore. He had his daughter back, and he wasn't going to lose her again. The cabin was quiet that night, too quiet for the tension simmering under the surface. James Thompson paced the length of the porch, his eyes scanning the darkened woods. Every rustle of leaves, every creak of the trees had him on edge. Inside, Sophia was finally resting, but the weight of the past 15 years hadn't left her. It hung between them like a heavy fog, obscuring the path forward. They had made it to the safe house, narrowly escaping Corbett's men, but the threat lingered. James knew Corbett wouldn't let this go. He was a man who thrived on control, and losing Sophia would only make him more dangerous. James had expected this fight for years, but now that it was here, it felt more real and more personal than he had ever imagined. The door creaked open behind him, and David Hale stepped out, his face shadowed in the dim porch light. He stood beside James, the tension between them unspoken. They had known each other long enough to communicate without words. But tonight, David broke the silence. "She's not going to trust you overnight," David said, his voice low. "She's spent years believing the lies Corbett fed her. It's going to take time." James clenched his jaw, the frustration bubbling beneath the surface. He had finally gotten his daughter back, but she still felt so far away. The bond they once shared had been severed, and every time he reached out, it felt like there was a wall he couldn't break through. "I know," James replied, his voice tight, "but we don't have time. Corbett is going to come for her, and we need to be ready. I need her to trust me before it's too late." David nodded, but his expression was grim. "You can't rush this, James. You need to let her come to you. If you push too hard, she might pull away." James sighed, running a hand through his hair. He knew David was right, but patience had never been his strong suit, especially not now, when the stakes were so high. He turned to face the door, his mind still racing with thoughts of what Corbett might be planning. "What do you think he'll do next?" James asked, his voice edged with concern. David's brow furrowed as he considered the question. "Corbett's unpredictable, Pa, but he's not going to make the same mistake twice. He'll regroup, plan something more aggressive, and he has the resources to track us down if we're not careful." James nodded, his fists clenching at his sides. He had no intention of letting Corbett get the upper hand again, but he also knew that they were running out of options. They couldn't keep running forever. Sooner or later, they would have to confront Corbett head-on. David placed a hand on James's shoulder, his expression serious. "You need to be ready for whatever comes next. We don't know how far Corbett is willing to go, but we can't afford to underestimate him." James's gaze hardened. "I'm ready. I've been ready for this fight for 15 years. David gave a small nod before heading back inside, leaving James alone with his thoughts once more. The night seemed darker than usual, the weight of everything pressing down on him like never before. He had his daughter back, but the battle to keep her safe was just beginning. Inside the cabin, Sophia lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The events of the past few days had left her reeling, her mind a chaotic swirl of emotions she couldn't quite process. For years, she had believed Corbett's version of the truth, that her father had abandoned her, that she had no one else. And now, that truth was unraveling, leaving her more confused than ever. James, her father, was a stranger to her. The memories she had of him were distant, faded by the years, and overshadowed by the lies she had been told. Yet there was something about him that stirred something deep inside her, something she couldn't explain. He looked at her with a mixture of love and sorrow, like he had been carrying the weight of her absence for far too long. But she wasn't ready to let go of the life she had known. Corbett had raised her, protected her, given her everything she needed. Could it all have been a lie? And if it was, what did that make her? Sophia's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the door. She sat up as James stepped into the room, his expression cautious. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice gentle. Sophia nodded, though the tension in the room was palpable. James sat down in the chair by the window, leaving space between them. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "I know this is hard," James finally said, his voice soft. "I can't imagine what Corbett told you, what he made you believe. But I want you to know that I never stopped looking for you, Sophia. I never gave up." Sophia's gaze remained fixed on the floor, her fingers twisting together in her lap. "He said you didn't want me," she whispered, "that you left us, left me." James's heart ached at the pain in her voice. He wanted to reach out, to pull her into his arms, and tell her that none of it was true, but he knew that wouldn't be enough. Not yet. "I didn't leave," James said quietly, his voice filled with emotion. "Your mother and I, we lost you. And for years, I thought you were gone forever, but I never gave up hope. I never stopped fighting to find you." Sophia finally looked up, her eyes searching his face for some kind of truth. "Why didn't you find me sooner? Why did it take so long?" James's throat tightened, guilt gnawing at him. "Corbett hid you from me. He's a powerful man, and he used every resource he had to make sure I couldn't find you. But I swear, Sophia, I never stopped trying." Sophia's gaze softened slightly, but there was still a wall between them, built from years of manipulation and confusion. "I don't know who to believe," she admitted, her voice small. "Everything I thought I knew is falling apart." James leaned forward, his voice filled with quiet determination. "You don't have to believe everything right now, but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. No matter what Corbett said, you're my daughter, and I love you." Sophia's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but she quickly looked away, as if afraid to let herself feel the weight of his words. She wasn't ready, not yet. James stood, sensing that the conversation had reached its limit for now. "We'll figure this out together." he said gently, heading for the door. "When you're ready to talk, I'm here." As he left the room, closing the door softly behind him, Sophia felt the knot of confusion tighten inside her. She wanted to believe him, to trust that her father had fought for her all these years. But the shadows of doubt still lingered, the echoes of Corbett's words haunting her thoughts. Hours later, as the night grew darker, the uneasy stillness of the forest outside the cabin was broken by the distant sound of engines approaching. James was instantly alert, his instincts telling him that this was it. Corbett's men were coming. He grabbed his phone, rushing to David's side. "We've got company." David nodded, already preparing for what was about to unfold. "They're coming fast. We need to move." James's heart pounded in his chest as he rushed to Sophia's room, finding her sitting on the bed, wide-eyed with fear. She didn't need to ask what was happening. She knew. "Come with me," James said, his voice urgent but calm. "We need to get out of here." Sophia hesitated for only a moment before nodding, her trust in James growing by the second, though it was still fragile. He helped her up, and they moved quickly through the cabin, David leading the way. Outside, the air was thick with tension. The sound of vehicles drew closer, headlights cutting through the darkness. Corbett's men were coming, and this time, James knew there would be no easy escape. The hum of approaching engines sent a chill down James Thompson's spine. The quiet of the forest was shattered, and the urgency of the moment hit him like a freight train. Corbett had found them, and there was no escaping this time. There would be no more running. It was time to face the man who had stolen his daughter and manipulated their lives for so many years. Inside the cabin, James grabbed Sophia's hand, pulling her toward the door where David was already preparing for the worst. His gun was drawn, his face set in grim determination. The team David had brought along was already in position, their eyes sharp, their weapons ready. This was the moment they had all known was coming, but it didn't make it any less terrifying. Sophia's hand trembled in James's grip, her fear palpable. He looked at her, trying to keep his voice steady, to reassure her in some way. "Stay close to me, Sophia. I won't let anything happen to you." She nodded, but the fear in her eyes remained. She hadn't spoken much since the conversation they had shared earlier, where the weight of her confusion had come crashing down. James knew that Corbett's lies still held her in their grip, but there was no time to untangle all of that now. Right now, all that mattered was keeping her safe. David approached, his voice low but tense. "They're here. Looks like at least 2 vehicles, but there could be more hiding in the woods." James's jaw clenched. He had known Corbett wouldn't give up easily, but the sheer scale of this attack suggested that Corbett was prepared for a full confrontation. "Is there a way out of here that they won't expect?" James asked, glancing toward the back of the cabin. David shook his head. "They've got the place surrounded. We're going to have to fight our way out." The weight of David's words hung heavy in the air. There was no escape. They would have to confront Corbett and his men head-on. Outside, the sound of car doors slamming and footsteps crunching on gravel filled the air. James could see shadows moving between the trees, the flash of headlights illuminating the figures as they approached the cabin. Corbett's men were disciplined, moving with precision. These weren't amateurs. They were professionals, and they were here to finish the job. James turned to Sophia, kneeling down in front of her. "Listen to me," he said, his voice urgent but soft. "When this starts, I need you to stay down, stay hidden. Don't move unless I tell you to. Do you understand?" Sophia's eyes were wide with fear, but she nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "What's going to happen?" James swallowed hard, wishing he had a better answer for her. "We're going to protect you, no matter what." But as the words left his mouth, he knew how hollow they sounded. He had spent the last 15 years trying to protect her, and now, in the face of Corbett's power, the stakes had never been higher. The first shot rang out, cutting through the silence like a thunderclap. James ducked instinctively, pulling Sophia behind a stack of crates in the corner of the room. David and his men returned fire, their weapons flashing in the darkness. The crack of gunfire was deafening, the air thick with tension. James held Sophia close, his heart racing. Every instinct screamed at him to rush out, to face Corbett himself. But he knew that this battle wasn't just about him anymore. It was about her, about keeping her safe from the man who had stolen her childhood and tried to poison her mind against him. Sophia trembled in his arms, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. Is Corbett out there?" James's voice was steady, even as his heart pounded in his chest. "Yes, but we're going to stop him, Sophia. He's not going to hurt you again." She didn't respond, but James could feel the weight of her fear pressing against him. She had been caught in the middle of this nightmare for so long, and now, at the final hour, it all hung in the balance. The gunfire outside intensified, and James knew that Corbett's men were closing in. He could hear David shouting orders, his voice barely audible over the chaos. The situation was deteriorating quickly, and James knew they couldn't hold out much longer. Suddenly, the gunfire stopped, and an eerie silence fell over the cabin. James's heart pounded in the stillness, his body tensing in anticipation. Something was about to happen. The front door creaked open slowly, and a figure stepped inside, his silhouette framed by the moonlight. Alexander Corbett. He walked in with the confidence of a man who knew he had the upper hand, his smile cold and calculating. His eyes flicked across the room until they landed on James and Sophia, huddled in the corner. "Well, well," Corbett said, his voice smooth and dripping with malice. "I must admit, James, you put up quite a fight, but I'm afraid it's over." James stood, his body shielding Sophia, his eyes locked on Corbett. "It's not over until you're gone." Corbett chuckled, the sound chilling in the quiet room. "You think you've won just because you found her. You're still playing by the old rules, James. But I've moved on from that. This isn't about family anymore. This is about control, and you have none." James's fists clenched at his sides. "You don't control her anymore. She's coming with me." Corbett's gaze shifted to Sophia, his smile widening. "Is that what you think, Sophia? That you're free now? That he's going to save you?" Sophia's breath hitched, her body trembling behind James. She didn't answer, and James could feel the conflict tearing her apart. Corbett's influence had been deeply ingrained in her, and she was still struggling to break free. "You don't have to listen to him anymore," James said, turning to her, his voice gentle but firm. "You're free now, Sophia. He doesn't own you." Sophia's eyes filled with tears, her face a mask of confusion and fear. I don't know who to believe," she whispered. Corbett stepped forward, his eyes dark and menacing. "You believe me, Sophia. I've always protected you. I've always been there for you when no one else was." James stepped between them, his voice rising. "He's been lying to you, manipulating you. He's not your protector, Sophia. He's your captor." Corbett's expression darkened, his smile fading. "Enough! You've lost, James. She's mine. She's always been mine." But before Corbett could take another step, the sound of footsteps behind him filled the room. David and his men entered, their weapons trained on Corbett. "It's over, Corbett," David said, his voice hard. "You're done." For the first time, Corbett's confidence faltered. He glanced around the room, realizing that his control was slipping away. His smile returned, though it was weaker now, a mask for the fear starting to creep in. "You think this ends with me?" Corbett said, his voice laced with bitterness. "There are others. You'll never be safe." James didn't flinch. He had heard enough of Corbett's threats. "We'll take our chances." Corbett's smile vanished completely, and with a final hateful glare at James and Sophia, he was led away by David's men. As the door closed behind Corbett, the tension in the room finally broke. James turned to Sophia, his heart pounding with a mix of relief and exhaustion. "Sophia," he said softly, kneeling in front of her. "It's over. You're free." Sophia stared at him, her eyes wide, her body trembling. I don't know what to do now." James's voice was filled with emotion as he gently placed his hands on her shoulders. "You don't have to know right now. We'll figure it out together." For the first time since they had reunited, Sophia allowed herself to feel the weight of everything that had happened. Tears streamed down her face, and she collapsed into James's arms, sobbing. James held her tightly, his own tears falling as the reality of the moment finally hit him. After 15 years of searching, of fighting, of hoping, he had his daughter back, and for the first time, he felt like they had truly won. The dawn broke quietly over the forest, casting a soft light across the cabin. The air was still, the tension from the night before slowly fading as the sun rose, but the emotional weight of the last few hours lingered like a shadow. James Thompson stood on the porch, staring out into the trees, trying to process everything that had happened. The confrontation with Alexander Corbett was over, but the scars it had left on him, on Sophia, on everyone involved, would take much longer to heal. Inside the cabin, Sophia sat at the kitchen table, her eyes fixed on the steaming cup of tea in front of her. She hadn't said much since Corbett had been taken away, but James knew that her silence was filled with turmoil. Her entire life had been upended, and now she was left to pick up the pieces. James walked inside, his footsteps soft, as if he didn't want to disturb the fragile calm that had settled over them. He paused in the doorway, watching Sophia, trying to gauge how she was feeling, but her expression remained unreadable. "Sophia," he said gently, stepping closer. "How are you feeling?" She didn't look up at him right away. For a long moment, she just stared into her cup, her thoughts far away. Finally, she let out a shaky breath and met his gaze. "I don't know," she admitted. "I don't know how I'm supposed to feel." James's heart ached at her words. He had hoped that once Corbett was out of the picture, things would start to get better, but he knew now that it wasn't that simple. Corbett had controlled her for so long, fed her lies, manipulated her every emotion. Undoing all of that was going to take time. "You don't have to have it all figured out right now," James said softly, sitting down across from her. "This is a lot. It's okay to feel lost." Sophia nodded, though her face remained clouded with uncertainty. I don't even know who I am anymore. My whole life, I thought Corbett was the only one I could trust. He made me believe I had no one else. And now I don't know what to believe." James reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "I can't change what he did to you, Sophia. I can't erase the years he took from us. But what I can do is be here for you now. We can start fresh, figure this out together." Sophia's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly blinked them away. "I don't know how to start over," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I don't even know who I am without him." James's heart broke for her. He had spent so many years searching for her, dreaming of the day they would be reunited, but he hadn't imagined the emotional scars Corbett would leave behind. He hadn't anticipated how hard it would be for Sophia to untangle herself from the life she had known. "You're stronger than you think," James said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You survived everything Corbett put you through. And now, you have the chance to build a life on your own terms. I'm going to be right here, every step of the way." Sophia looked at him, her eyes searching his face as if trying to find the truth in his words. Slowly, she nodded, though the uncertainty still lingered in her expression. "I want to believe that," she said softly, "but it's hard. I've been trapped in his lies for so long." James squeezed her hand gently. "It's going to take time, and that's okay. We'll take it one day at a time." Later that morning, David Hale arrived at the cabin, his face etched with exhaustion but also relief. Corbett was in custody, and his network was being dismantled. The danger that had loomed over them for so long was finally gone. James stepped outside to greet David, leaving Sophia inside to process everything in her own time. "Is it over?" James asked, though he knew the answer wasn't simple. David nodded, though his expression remained serious. "For now, Corbett's not going to be a threat anymore, but you know as well as I do that these things have a way of leaving loose ends. His connections, his influence, they won't disappear overnight." James's jaw tightened. "We'll deal with whatever comes next," he said, his voice firm. "Right now, all I care about is making sure Sophia's safe." David gave him a long, considering look before nodding. You did good, James. You got her back. James glanced over his shoulder through the window where Sophia sat. I have her back, but I'm not sure she's really here yet. Corbett did a number on her. She doesn't know who she is without him. David's expression softened. Give her time. She'll find her way. You both will. James nodded, though his heart still felt heavy with the weight of the journey ahead. He knew that the road to healing wouldn't be easy for either of them, but he also knew that, for the first time in 15 years, there was hope. That afternoon, James and Sophia took a walk through the woods surrounding the cabin. The air was crisp, the sky clear, and for the first time in what felt like forever, there was a sense of peace. They walked in silence for a while, the sound of their footsteps the only noise breaking the quiet. Eventually, Sophia spoke, her voice soft. What happens now? James glanced at her, his expression gentle. Whatever you want, we can take things slow. There's no rush. Sophia looked down at the ground, her hands tucked into her pockets. I don't know what I want. I don't know what normal is supposed to feel like. James stopped walking and turned to face her, his heart aching for everything she had been through. You don't have to have all the answers, in Sophia. You've been through more than anyone should ever have to. It's okay to not know. We'll figure it out together. Sophia's eyes filled with tears again, but this time she didn't try to hide them. She let them fall, her body shaking with the release of emotions she had kept bottled up for so long. I'm scared, she whispered. I'm scared that I'll never feel okay again. James stepped forward, pulling her into his arms. You will, he promised, his voice thick with emotion. It won't happen overnight, but you will. You're strong, Sophia, stronger than you realize. Sophia clung to him, the walls she had built around herself finally starting to crumble. She had spent so long believing Corbett's lies, but now, with her father by her side, she could see a different future, a future where she was free to choose her own path. As the days passed, Sophia began to open up more. The healing was slow, but it had begun. She and James spent time together, talking about everything and nothing, rebuilding the bond that had been stolen from them. There were still moments of doubt, moments when Sophia questioned everything she had known, but James remained patient, giving her the space she needed to process it all. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Sophia turned to James, her expression more at peace than he had seen since their reunion. Thank you, she said softly, for not giving up on me. James smiled, his heart swelling with pride and love. I could never give up on you, Sophia. You're my daughter. I've waited my whole life to get you back. Sophia leaned her head against his shoulder, a small, hopeful smile on her lips. I think I'm finally starting to believe that. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.